rolling.
The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day edition. It's Wednesday, Dom. Halfway home. How you doing, little buddy?
Happy hump day to you, Crudey Rich, working the board, working the sound. Thank you, sir, our fair audience. Welcome to the political party, 844-967-2789.
Dominic, in the 4 o'clock hour, we're going to hold off on this, but we've got the newest sound of former President Donald Trump meeting with a panel in front of the National Association of Black Journalists in Chicago earlier today, and I watched this live.
Oh,
and I got to tell you, Dom, this was beyond weird. This was downright racist, and Donald Trump totally just abandoned any thought of actually winning over black voters. In my humble opinion, I mean, he just couldn't help himself. He's just a racist, man. He's just out there being racist.
So he was Trump. Trump went into this
very Trumpian
meeting.
Attacked.
Go ahead. You saw it. Yes.
Well, he attacked journalists.
Yes.
He attacked his opponent as perhaps not declaring her blackness early enough in life. Dom, I'm not even sure if she is black. Someone should look into that,
Someone should look into it. Yes. Somebody look into this. What?
He claims that Democrats support post-birth abortions, and despite all the pushback of journalists on the panel, he was set in his belief. It's outrageous. So that we're going to spend some time savoring in the happy hour. Dom, we're going to get to that. But you know what I'm very excited about?
What's
Not
that?
just the vice president's performance in Atlanta last night. That looked like a rock concert. I saw the energy. 10,000 people in the room in hot Atlanta. Know who's going to be in that same room tonight? Donald Trump. So compare the crowd.
Oh, interesting.
Remember when we saw that South Bend, Indiana, Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump did back-to-back rallies at the same venue, different ballrooms, but very similar crowd sizes. Just Bernie's crowd was full of love, and Trump's crowd was full of hatred for the immigrant folks.
Well, yeah, man. I had talk about a distinct different night, right? We walked in. We had Bernie was first, right? It was great. It was loving. We love Bernie. Good time. Next day, same events or same building. Trump's being Trump. We walk outside, man. The blocks are lined with protesters. It was not well received by the locals.
In fact, I think some of the local Latinos were throwing eggs at the Trump support of that night.
Oof.
And it kind of got a little fisticuffish.
A little chippy. Got a little chippy out there.
Yeah, a little.
Yeah.
Like a hockey game. So The contrast stark between Kamala Harris appearing in Atlanta, a primarily black community, and Donald Trump appearing before the National Association of Black Journalists and insulting, and really assaulting those in the audience with his blatant racism, I would say, Dom. So you can be the judge. We'll contrast these two events. But let me start by saying,
and just real quick though, they did cut it off after about 30 minutes. The Trump team, and we're done here.
It was literally a "we're done here." Not after this question. It was the Trump's team says we're done now, and that's how it ended.
You've shut down a few press conferences like that, Crute.
Well, they would say last question. I would ask it many times. They claim it's the last question, but if the subject of the interview is still answering questions, usually you can continue to question, right? Like it continues till the guy says, "I got to go." My staff says I got to go. Well, Trump didn't beg off the staff. He was ready to leave the NABJ. So anyways, we'll compare that, Dom. But here's the exciting news. As far as I'm concerned, next week, the vice president, the new nominee of the Democratic Party, coming to our backyard again.
Again. What is that, 6 times this year?
That might be Kamala's 6th time in the state of Wisconsin in the year. And this time, she's not doing Madison. She's not doing Milwaukee or even Racine, Dom. Western Wisconsin.
Ooh.
That's our old stomping grounds. That's where we met, Dom. We met in La Crosse out in God's country. We're both fine UWL graduates. We both graduated, right?
Yeah. You graduated, right?
Yours?
Okay. I mean, I don't know about fine, yes, good looking, yes. Fine students, we graduated.
I am one of the most distinguished grads of the mass comm program ever, Dom.
Yeah. What mass comm program?
Well, they dissolved the program. Therefore, I have some distinction. I burned it down on my way out the door.
It never happened.
Here's my speculation. You want to hear it? I've got lots of speculative news to share with you.
All right, let me just throw this out. 2 paragraphs. Be patient. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. Harris and her future running mate, expected to be announced early next week, will travel to battleground states to campaign to the voters who will decide this election. According to the campaign official confirmed the trip will include a stop in Western Wisconsin. A spokesperson for a Harris campaign did not say which day or where Harris and her vice presidential pick will stop in the western part of the state, but Harris is expected to hold her first rally with her running mate Tuesday in Philly. So there's a date we know for sure based on the reporting.
And I'm going to further speculate. They're starting in Pennsylvania, Dom. They're starting in Philadelphia, an important swing state, and also the home of possible VP candidate Josh Shapiro, right? Governor Josh Shapiro.
Mm-hmm.
So if I were a wagering man and I was just trying to look at the vice president's travel schedule and predict a few things, a few of her future actions, I would speculate that she's already made the decision and it's Josh Shapiro. Because you don't go to Pennsylvania and say, "And here's my running mate, Tim Walz from Minnesota." Probably. Number 2, Dom, the UAW is getting ready to endorse Kamala Harris. Now, they had already earlier endorsed Biden earlier this year. And, of course, the recasting of the Democratic race has cast aside their prior endorsement. So now they're in a position and they've got a board. They've got to do their process.
It's been done. New York Times is reported the UAW's endorsement of Harris. The union has about 370,000 members with large presences in key battleground states like Michigan and Wisconsin. UAW's president Sean Fain said this: "We stand at a crossroads in this country. We can put a billionaire back in office who stands against everything our union stands for, or we can elect Kamala Harris, who will stand shoulder to shoulder with us in our war on corporate greed." UAW has endorsed Vice President Harris.
In my understanding, Dom, and I cannot source this, I've been consuming lots of media as I do, but I pick up little tidbits here and there. And the original reporting I had heard about the UAW is they would officially endorse her at a Detroit rally on Wednesday of next week. the vice president and her new VP. So my math says Pennsylvania Tuesday, Detroit Wednesday, Western Wisconsin Thursday.
Ah.
So I'm planning my itinerary, and you figure out if I'm right or not. You know, I've
We'll
been to the
see.
wrong state at the wrong time before, Dom.
This week.
So, you know, I try to cast when I think it's going to be
Sure.
in. I'll just show up on that day, and we'll see if the vice president's there. But I think Thursday, and I've even been trying to predict, where would she go? Western Wisconsin, that's the third CD. Most of Western Wisconsin is the third CD. Think about the Mississippi River, the pinky side of Russ Feingold's hand. That's the third. And the third is Derek Van Orden, but the third is where we went to college, God's country up in La Crosse. The third is also Eau Claire. I would call that a blue area of the state of Wisconsin. And I think those probably are the two cities she will choose from. Now, earlier this year, Kamala Harris already appeared in La Crosse. I'm not saying she's ruling that out because they've appeared a few times, both her and Biden, in both Milwaukee and Madison, right? So being there prior doesn't mean they're not going back to La Crosse. But this is supposed to be a big rally environment, right? She's rolling out her VP.
You gotta have
and she's coming to a battleground state. You got to
Yeah.
have a sufficient venue. And also in light of the fact Trump got shot at, got his ear pierced in Pennsylvania, probably going to be a lot of indoor venues where you can control the perimeter, if you know what I'm saying. So it is my prediction that Kamala Harris, will roll out her VP next Thursday, either at the La Crosse Center in La Crosse, capacity 7,500. I looked it up, Dom. Or, and my initial thought was the Pablo Center in Eau Claire, beautiful little venue. I saw Amos Lee there with the Mrs. Crute last year. Great spot, cheap drinks. Loved it, man. Got hammer drunk. Had a hotel room nearby.
Okay, good. What about Illinois? What about Chicago? What about Minnesota after Wisconsin?
I'm not even done with where they're going to be yet. Don't get ahead of my story here, my speculation. So, here's the other thought I had. There is a arena on the UW Eau Claire campus, the Sonatag Event Center, and with standing room only. You can pack about 5,000 people in there. The Pablo Center in Eau Claire, beautiful little place, only 1,200. That doesn't seem sufficient. That's like a theater. That's like a big Orpheum. Well, not even a big Orpheum, like an Orpheum theater. That's not big enough, man. When the vice president comes to Western Wisconsin next Thursday, I'll be in Western Wisconsin one way or the other. With or without the vice president there, because I predicted the day and I'm got to show up now. So I hope she's there on Thursday. And I hope she's either in La Crosse or Eau Claire, because we play out in both markets, Dom. The Tap, 93.5 in Eau Claire. We also play out in La Crosse on the Eagle, soaring high above your radio dial at 1490 AM. So you can find us there. But if I'd have guessed, Dom, she's going to our alma mater, La Crosse, baby. She's going to La Crosse. She'll be at the La Crosse Center, but that's just one man's guess. Speculative. But I'm usually right about such things, at least close. Come back with us, Devil's Advocates, greatest radio show ever. Pretty sure I'm right about that.
Hi, this is Paul Soglin. When I was mayor of Madison, Samba Balde was Common Council president. I counted on him to fight for a fair share of city services for all Madison residents and to protect taxpayers' interests. I know you can count on him to be a progressive state senator. Vote for Samba Balde for Senate on August 13th.
Paid for by Samba for Senate.
This is Chad Spate. Sometimes I'm overwhelmed by the hatred and misinformation that consumes our world, but I also know that we cannot build a house of justice and inclusion on a foundation of hatred and lies. We have to practice what we preach. At Chad's Design Build, we confront injustice the same way we confront a poorly built home, with love, compassion, intelligence, and persistence. We engage our community the way we engage our clients, with honesty and humility and the dogged determination that we can do better.
the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio. Hey, Dom, how many palindromes can you name in 30 seconds?
Race car, mom, dad, reefer, kayak, level. Did I say mom already?
You're forgetting one really important one.
Zero res.
Not only is it the coolest palindrome ever, it's also our favorite.
Right, I remember. Why is that again?
They advertise with us.
Zero res, my favorite palindrome.
And carpet cleaner. Get the best carpet cleaning ever. Schedule your carpet cleaning online at zeroresmadison.com. Tell them the Devil's Advocate sent you.
The Devil's Advocates may not agree on much, but funny is funny.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Phone lines are open. 844-967-2789.
Down at Kamala Harris going to Western Wisconsin. And that means yours truly, Crute, will be in Western Wisconsin. Probably Thursday, I predict. Lacrosse, but it could be Eau Claire. You know, no real tip of the cards yet from the Harris campaign. Hell, I might be wrong. Might be next weekend for all I know, Dom. But I plan on being there on Thursday because I'm pretty sure I'm right. And we'll see. We'll see.
We'll see.
I'm very excited to see the rollout. And we'll see if I'm right. It's Josh Shapiro that she has chosen, the governor of the state of Pennsylvania. It has been my understanding she has kind of tipped her cards through some of the fundraising Ask the Harris campaign. Apparently has tipped her cards that she has chosen a governor in that state campaigns, federal campaigns. They've had to explain some of that to donors. And if it was Mark Kelly, the senator from Arizona, probably wouldn't need to do so. So if we're down to governors, willing governors, because Whitmer has said no, and Gavin Newsom has said no. Don't know if they were asked, but they preemptively said no, not interested. So we're really just down to a few eligible Dem governors. Walz from the state of Minnesota. He's been very, very much on the rise, sort of a populist sort of guy, not a lawyer sort. You know,
He kind of coined the whole weird thing. It took off after Walz started saying it.
Well, I think he is the first one to use that term for J.D. Vance and Donald Trump. I think it's apt. And, of course, we got Bashir, the kid from Kentucky. But there's no way in hell the Democrats are putting the state of Kentucky in their column. Minnesota better be a safe blue state. So, really, what's that leave? Electorally, where a governor could actually lift and benefit Harris electorally would be in Pennsylvania, where there are 19 electoral votes. If you lock up Pennsylvania, the path to the White House gets a hell of a lot easier. And Dom, I know you posted it last night, but the Morning Consult, they've got new polling out, and what do you know? Harris starting to take the lead, or at least closing the gap in every single one of the swing states, Dom, including my favorite swing state, Wisconsin, right? I've got the polling if you don't.
I got to hear, Crute, from the Hill from yesterday, and the Republicans, the MAGAs, are freaking out a little bit about this. She has erased Trump's lead in 7 battleground states, roughly a week after becoming the likely Democratic nominee. The Bloomberg News Morning Consult poll showed Harris and Trump in a tight race across all battleground states, with 48% backing Harris, 47% backing Trump. The breakdown among individual states shows each candidate leading comfortably in one swing state, with the others closely contested. It is a notable shift from a recent poll conducted at the start of July that showed Trump leading Biden overall by 2 percentage points and Trump leading in 5 of the...
Leading in 5 of the... I'm sorry, Dom, I thought you said 5 of the battleground states. I think he meant to. Now, the breakdown among individual states shows each candidate leading comfortably in one swing state, with the others closely contested. It is a notable shift, as Dom mentioned. Tuesday poll shows Harris opening up an 11-point lead on Trump in Michigan. Gretchen Whitmer becomes something of an afterthought. If you got a double-digit lead in Michigan, that is definitely a change. A 2-point lead in Nevada. Again, this is Harris leading Trump in Nevada. A 2-point lead in Arizona and a 2-point lead in Wisconsin. That's the one I care about most of all. Trump, meanwhile, led Harris by 4 points in Pennsylvania, hence the Josh Shapiro, the Crute's opinion, and 2 points in North Carolina. Roy Cooper, the governor of North Carolina, he's termed, meaning he's done as the governor soon, but he also withdrew his consideration in North Carolina. He does not want to be the sidecar. And the candidates were tied in Georgia at 47% support. Now, Kamala Harris did a barn burner of a rally last night in Atlanta. Trump in the same venue tonight. But Dom, I don't know if you noticed, this was a big poll in terms of people polled. Almost 5,000 people polled. And the margin of error, 1 point.
Wow.
That's a much smaller margin of error. Lots of times it's like 4.
And
if
she's
some candidate's
leading
up by 2,
Trump
but the
in
margin's
Michigan.
4.
Right, and she's leading in Michigan by 11. So that means she's what, up by 10 in Michigan? Oof.
That's what the polling would seem to indicate. That would be the safest of all the states. And we understand Kamala Harris coming to Michigan next week, Detroit, a rally. She got the UAW endorsement today. And that's going to help, I would say, solidify her candidacy in a working class blue state like Michigan. Hopefully it also helps here in the state of Wisconsin. I know we're not quite as UAW, not quite as automaking as the state once was, but I still like seeing the unions getting on board for Harris.
Yeah, for real.
I think that's important, man. You know, we keep talking about the white, non-college educated voter. That's the only path Trump has left. A lot of union guys fall in that category.
And given Trump's history of denigrating and going after Muslims and black people like he did today,
And crappy Jewish people.
and crappy, horrible Jewish people, he's, it's probably not going to get much better for him in a state like Michigan with, towns like Dearborn and Detroit.
Well, Atlanta, suburban Atlanta is a majority minority community. More blacks in that community than white people. And as goes Atlanta, Fulton County, as goes certain parts of Georgia, there's such a density of population there. That can swing a whole state.
Yeah, right.
A lot of Georgia is rural, right? The red parts, the MTG parts. Well, leave that for the rednecks and the MAGAs. But when you got a big old city like Atlanta turning towards Kamala Harris, last night I saw, I'm not sure, a former Republican, I'm not sure if it was a Fox News person, but they were in the rally. And I see this commentator, this former Republican, saying, I've never seen a crowd like this.
Right.
And I can tell you, this commentator said, I can tell you right now, Georgia is in play. Georgia's back in play. Kamala Harris put on a show last night. We'll talk about that in the 4 o'clock hour. Donald Trump put on. Oh, a hell of a crap show today.
Something. That was something, all right.
He went in front of the National Association of Black Journalists and basically told them, what a racist he was. We'll play some of that sound. And we're going to talk about the 3rd CD, Western Wisconsin. Kamala Harris coming here soon, maybe next Thursday, maybe. But the race to go up against Derek Van Orden, August 13th, we got a primary. We got to pick a candidate. Come back. We'll talk about the 3rd in the race to take on Drunken Van Orden. More Devil's Advocates.
Civic Media Network.
The recent heavy rains across Wisconsin have significantly impacted mosquito populations, leading to a heightened mosquito pressure in many areas of the state, particularly in areas such as the Triplets area and the Northwoods. I'm Charity Seebecker for the Midwest Farm Report, and Wisconsin State entomologist TJ Leash, who's also known as the Wisconsin Bug Guy, says that in addition to the mosquitoes, the recent weather conditions have also led to increased activity from other pests.
A few things stand out to me that I've been seeing some issues with.
All right, so I don't know what the issue is here.
out to me would be some pests like earwigs, which are mostly active after dark, and they can chew notches in leaves. And so if you are a farmer or a gardener and you look at your plants and you can't figure out what's causing the damage, one suggestion I have been throwing out there to folks is head out after dark with a flashlight or a headlight, because earwigs can cause damage after dark.
I mean, I can try to do a workaround if you want, if I can, if you want me to. Otherwise, put up with it or I can try to plug my computer in and get the modules all set up. But I don't know.
On August 13th at 9 a.m. in booth 347. Oxbow is a leader in harvesting and application technology. Visit oxbo.com. The fabulous Farm Babe Pam Yankee will also be broadcasting at 11:30 a.m. in booth 520 on 5th Street with Rural
All right, but I'm saying,
Learn how the
okay,
number one
we're
farm
gonna wait till
insurer
4.
is keeping Wisconsin strong with premiums paid here that stay here. Visit ruralmutual.com. It is in a Wisconsin summer without the Wisconsin State Fair. Again this year, the Midwest Farmer Report brings you stories from the show ring to the midway and from the food to the auctions.
It's
For
pretty
full
bad,
Wisconsin
but
State
okay,
Fair coverage,
I'll hold
visit
off until 4 and see. Hopefully it
midwestfarmereport.com
flushes
or follow
through.
along on our podcast. This year's Wisconsin State Fair coverage is sponsored by Gums Farms of Endeavor. Locally owned Gums Farms brings produce from their family farm to your family's table. Check them out at gumsfarmswi.com.
All right, man.
Brady Seebecker for the Midwest Farm Report with a look at your morning agribusiness news. This week's episodes of the Dairy Signal from professional dairy producers kicked off yesterday and featured interactive conversations to benefit a farm's culture, brand, and security. You can tune in today to learn about the opportunities to grow your farm's social media reach, engagement, and sales, and how to determine if outsourcing or working with a freelancer is the right fit for you. And on Thursday, join a conversation about keeping facilities secure, including use of security cameras, alarm systems, and much more. You can learn more about this as well as find other agribusiness news stories at midwestfarmreport.com. While you're there, sign up for our e-newsletter as we'll deliver 5 stories to your inbox every day. For the Midwest Farm Report, I'm Charity Seebecker.
You can always continue the conversation on social media. Share your thoughts when you find and follow Civic Media on Facebook, X, and Instagram.
It is going to be warm and humid today, partly cloudy with a high of 88 and a heat index in the mid to upper 90s. And there is a chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. Tonight, scattered thunderstorms 70. Tomorrow, scattered thunderstorms with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now is 90.
Don't let spring allergies make you miserable. Try the quick, drug-free solution trusted by over 4 million people. Navage. Only Navage uses suction to flush out your sinuses using refreshing saline, helping you breathe easier, sleep better, and feel healthier. And here's even better news. Navage is now available at your local Sam's Club in a great new value pack. It's everything you need to start breathing better fast. Check out Navage at your local Sam's Club today. Navage. N-A-V-A-G-E. Breathe easy.
It is one of the most important business decisions you will make, selling your commercial building. It should involve making a plan to maximize your sale price through effective and responsive marketing. Your plan should also include a clear understanding of tax consequences. You need the professionals at Altus Commercial Real Estate to guide your success.
Check.
Experienced and responsive professionals make all the difference. Make your plan to sell. Call Altus Commercial Real Estate today at 608-338-1101.
Pete Schwaba.
On the next Nightlight, I welcome local filmmaker and Comic-Con attendee Craig Knitt, who will give us a full rundown of the event. And Emmy-winning comedian Dwayne Kennedy joins the show.
The Devil's Advocates. Political commentary from the back of the class.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show, the Hump Day edition. Currently speculating. We know the Vice President, Kamala Harris, the Dem nominee, coming to the great state of Wisconsin next week. We know she's bringing her vice presidential nominee. We just don't know who, when, or where.
the most important questions in journalism. Didn't they teach you that, Crute?
Who, what, when, where, why? Well, why? Because Wisconsin is one of the most important swing states in the nation. Who, Crute speculates, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, only because they're going to roll out the campaign starting in Pennsylvania, in Philadelphia. So my logic says you roll out with a governor from that state. That's why you're going there. Also, I had heard reported earlier today, I have not seen it verified and confirmed, but Harris to be in Detroit on Wednesday and rally with the UAW. She apparently received their endorsement today, but a big rally in Michigan. They'll want a big visual rally, right? And then I think she'll come to Western Wisconsin next Thursday. And I think either La Crosse or Eau Claire, a couple of venues big enough, maybe UW Eau Claire campus, maybe the La Crosse Center, but, want to pack 5,000 or more in the venue if you can.
Right.
And there's only a couple of venues in Western Wisconsin that would accommodate crowds of that size. So, again, just speculating, but there's a little logic behind how I come up with my conclusions. And I'm probably right. I usually am. 63% of the time.
You always throw something out there, Crute. You got to say something. So it makes sense to me. Also reported not just Detroit, also Raleigh, Savannah, Phoenix, and Las Vegas, according to
all
Reuters.
the swing states. North Carolina, Nevada, and Arizona. I mean, you're hitting the Southwest, you're hitting the upper Midwest, and you're hitting North Carolina. So all those states potentially in play. And I think Harris opens up all kinds of pathways to the White House. Dom, you know who else is having a hell of a month? Tammy Baldwin. I think she is nearly unbeatable as a U.S. senatorial candidate. And I hate to make it about the money, but Tammy's got gobs of money. You think Kamala's raising money? Tammy is also raising gobs of money this month. Democrat, U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin raised $2.5 million in the last 3 weeks of July.
Wow.
From the 1st to the 24th. And there was a holiday weekend in there.
You think there's some coattails of excitement and motivation since Joe Biden stepped back and Harris consolidated?
Well, see, if you think so, from the way this Journal Sentinel article is drafted, Don, Baldwin has raised $28 million since launching her campaign for a third term in the Senate, the campaign said. Here's a statement from Tammy. I'm amazed by the outpouring of support for our campaign in recent weeks. With so much on the line, I'm determined to defend our fundamental freedoms and find solutions to the kitchen table issues that matter most to our families. Now, during the July pre-primary period, according to the campaign, Baldwin received contributions from more than 9,000 Wisconsinites, average donation of $34.67, and contributions throughout the campaign cycle have come from every county in the state, with teachers and healthcare workers being the most prominently represented professionals. And Baldwin faces a challenge from Republican businessman Eric Hudvey. He's the self-funder, soon to be a billionaire, right? The guy owns a couple banks, billion-dollar banks. But anyways, with less than 100 days until the November 5th election, Wisconsin remains a key state for both parties, especially following a shakeup on the Democratic ticket that has effectively elevated VP Kamala Harris as the party's nominee. Now they go on to sort of take a dig at Tammy, but let me read this. Baldwin, who had declined to say whether Democratic President Joe Biden should stay in the race, told reporters at a campaign event in Stoughton on the day he withdrew from the race that his decision was a patriotic thing for him to do, and she said she would back Harris. I saw her day after day hold powerful organizations to account, powerful individuals to account. In her role on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Baldwin said at the Stoughton event where she was joined by Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts. And I've seen her as vice president. She's prepared, and I'm very proud to endorse her. Now, Biden promised a bridge to the next generation, and we're crossing the bridge right now, Baldwin said. And I think you're going to see a lot of unity, a lot of excitement, a lot of people inspired by this moment. And certainly, as I mentioned, I've been hearing so many concerns from Wisconsinites, especially Democrats. We're going to come together. I'm very excited about that. Tammy, very excited. Now, she was at the West Dallas. She gave some opening remarks. That was the longest campaign stump speech I've probably seen her give the entire cycle.
And she was not in town when Biden rolled through last time after his debate performance. She was campaigning in northern Wisconsin.
She had a pre-planned campaign, multiple campaign stops. She was doing the 4th of July, holiday, not circus. What do they do? The parades, the parade circuit. Tammy Baldwin had a number of 4th of July parades planned. I saw Joe Biden in Madison that day. He was brought to the stage by Mark Pocan. And if you'll recall, my congressman just 2 weeks later, after introducing Biden, asked Biden to step aside. And that weekend he did.
And a few days later, Biden did.
And ever since, we've been holding on tight and enjoying a sugar rush.
It's been great. It's been great. And I think it does. It does have coattails. You see people, you see the fundraising of Tammy. I think it's better now than it would have been under Joe. I think the enthusiasm is certainly higher, and the fundraising is through the roof, man.
And the polling. The polling all seems to be turning towards Kamala Harris. Dom, wanted to talk about the third CD, though. That is a potential pickup. That was Ron Kind's seat for, 24 years, man?
Oh, man, right?
The former district attorney from La Crosse. And Brad Pfaff was the candidate for the Democrats against Derek Van Orden. And Brad Pfaff, a fine state senator, he had been the ag secretary, got fired by Senate Republicans for, calling to people's attention the fact they wouldn't fund the suicide hotline for farmers.
Right. How dare you?
And for that crime,
yes, don't talk about it.
He was heave-hoed. He ran for state senate. He won Jennifer Schilling's old seat in the La Crosse area. Ran for Congress, was not successful in that effort, and did not run this time, Dom. And the candidate that finished number 2 to him, and we met her, and we interviewed her. We had her on the show most recently when we were in Chippewa Falls. That's been some months now. But Rebecca Cook is the waitress, as she's been described. She is currently a waitress. She also apparently has done some political work in her career. And the other candidate, the other primary candidate, is Katrina Shanklin. But here's the news. There will be no debate, at least not on the television. Now, having said that, this seems like some sort of breaking news. Within the body of this article, they point out they have had a number of candidate forums, and they've played them out on Civic Media.
Right.
Like 4 of them to date. So it's not like these candidates haven't been on the stage together. It's not like they haven't pushed back and forth.
And it's not like you can't go and find it and listen to it should you like to see the side-by-side comparison.
And I would point out Civic Media has 5 radio stations in the third CD. And I suspect they sort of programmed to play them out in the CD where they would matter, right? I didn't personally make any efforts to, observe that happened. But I've seen the replays. I've seen the podcast. I know they exist. So this becomes something of a lesser issue in that they've had other candidate forums.
There has been exposure to the candidates.
It's not like Derek Van Orden against Pfaff in 2022 when he refused to debate. Never had a debate against his opponent. Not a forum, not a
thing.
He was something of a coward, this supposed former Navy SEAL. And I believe his service, but believe me when I say the man is a political coward, because why wouldn't you go debate your opponent?
Oh, well, because he knows that he is an unattractive candidate. I mean, just look at him as a congressman. He continues to embarrass the state of Wisconsin and himself, but I don't think he has much shame. I mean, come on, man. During the RNC, he was outside of the Pfister, and there was a bunch of people standing in line to get into an event, and he tried to, get past a woman who apparently had an issue with that and maybe hip checked him, and he claimed it was political assault. She was assaulted by this little 100-pound woman. This is the guy. Derek Van Orden has a history of attacking women, of attacking minors, librarians, a volunteer, but he went and checked out all the LGBT Senate pages, taking pictures in the Capitol when they're wrapping up their service. He offered your wife a beer at 9 a.m. for crying out loud, Crute. I mean,
that was his staff.
Oh, his staff. Okay. Well,
well trained by the boss.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I have my own speculation why he would not want to spend time on the stage debating, Dom. Cut into his drinking
time. I mean, there's only so much time in the day, and if you can't drink all day, Crute, if you don't start in the morning.
So, the Democratic primary, though, there will not be a televised debate, despite efforts to try and align the candidates and make this debate happen. And now, as I read the fundraising totals in the Journal Sentinel's account. I wonder if this waitress, this Rebecca Cook, doesn't have some polling showing that she's in the lead, because she's got a huge cash advantage over Shanklin. And Shanklin's the one that's raising hell and saying, well, she won't debate me. You know, how are you going to ever debate Van Orden if you won't debate me? Those seem like the taunts of a trailing candidate. I'm just speculating, but I'm looking at the money, and I'm looking at who's casting most of the mud. And there's some mud being cast. There's a little blue on blue violence happening in that district right now, Dom.
Shanklin pushed for a televised debate, pointing out she accepted every debate offer and singled out Cook as not ready for prime time. And of course, as you mentioned, without a broadcast debate for the primary, how will we expect Derek Van Orden to agree to a TV debate in the general election? Well, he didn't last time, so what makes you think he would this time? But what about the money, Crute? What gets you? What does that indicate to you?
Well, it indicates to me that there is more appetite currently for Cook's campaign, at least in terms of fundraising. At the end of last month, Rebecca Cook had reported raising $1.8 million and had more than $1 million cash on hand.
Wow.
Now, in a congressional race, that's a pretty good war chest, especially as a non-incumbent that hasn't won a primary yet. Once you win the primary, whatever support there's going to be from the DCCC or whatever the case may be, that's when they endorse.
I think they're going to be, they're not going to make the same mistake they did last time around, because Paff should have beat Van Orden. We never should have had this.
It was about a 4-point race ultimately, and it was closing at the end, and there was no resources brought to bear, or very, very few, very, very late
Van Orden
for Brad Paff.
outspent like 3-1, and Paff didn't have the money to respond. This will not be the case in this election cycle.
Well, Katrina Shanklin reported raising about $800,000 over the same period, and that she has about $342,000 in her war chest. Wilson, meanwhile, had raised $127,000 and had just $45,000 cash on hand. So one candidate's got $1 million, that's Cook. One candidate's got about $350,000, that's Katrina Shanklin, and one candidate's got $45,000, which in a very broad district, geographically, the third is just a lot of real estate.
Right.
I mean, Civic Media has 5 radio stations in the third because it's big. And you got to have lots of stations to cover all the parts. And I call it God's country because it's the unglaciated part of the state. What's that mean? That means it's hard to cast a media signal into the coulees. So
rolling hills and valleys. Yeah, man. How do you get a signal down there?
You got to invest in local media. You must own a radio station, let's say in La Crosse, like 1490, the Eagle soaring high above your radio dial. You need to be positioned to have impact in that marketplace. Also, WFHR, that's in Wisconsin Rapids. That's in the third. The TAP 93.5, that's in the third. WRCE, that's in the third. That's in Richland Center. And we've also got WRCO. So plenty of people going to hear us talking about the third. Dom, there is a call for the Dems to unite because we got to beat Derek Van Orden. This is the most important congressional race. Well, the third, the eighth, the first.
Yeah.
But those are the most important congressional races in the state of Wisconsin. Come back, more Devil's Advocates.
house have the opportunity to thrive. If you're thinking about remodeling your home, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more about our commitments to you, your home, and our community.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio. DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our dead and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorite slimming black, white or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at the DevilRadioswag.com. Because we got bills too.
Occupy didn't start on Wall Street. It started on our street. The Devil's Advocates.
All right, welcome back to the Devil's Advocate Radio Show. Phone lines always open for your take. Love it when you talk or text at 844-967-2789.
Next week, when I travel to Western Wisconsin to see Kamala Harris and her new VP nominee, I guarantee you, Dom, somebody's going to be playing Van Halen on the radio.
Always, always. In the state of Wisconsin, you cannot cross the state and flip some channels and not hear Van Halen multiple times. And that's a great thing.
Not a bad thing.
No, come on, man.
Just something we've noted as we've driven all around all the corners of Russ Feingold's hand, Tom. Editorial at the Cap Times, you brought this one to my attention because there is something of a contentious primary, a Democratic primary, and a little mud being slung back and forth between Rebecca Cook and Katrina Shanklin. And these are two very relatively young candidates in political ages and terms, but they both seemingly have fairly well-organized campaigns. And then there's this also ran this Wilson kid. But here is what the Cap Times editorial says. Democrats need unity to beat drunken Van Orden. My characterization.
Oh, you put the drunken.
Pretty sure it's clear, though.
I mean, if I just may, as soon as I saw it, I'm like, well, yeah, but it is a primary, man. I mean, that is probably not going to be unity till after the primary. Just saying.
Few sharp elbows between now,
and
a week from Tuesday. When he's not yelling at teenagers, missing floor votes, and generally distinguishing himself as the most absurd member of Congress where there is no shortage of absurdity, Republican Derek Van Orden, air quotes, represents Wisconsin's 3rd Congressional District. Van Orden would have lost his seat 2 years ago if National Democrats had provided sufficient support for their candidate. State Senator Brad Pfaff, who, despite being outspent 3-1 by Van Orden, won 48% of the vote. And this year, Democrats will not make the same mistake. They're already signaling that they'll be ready for the party's nominee against Van Orden. If Pfaff were running again, we expect the Onalaska Democrat would already have things locked up, but he's seeking re-election to the legislature. So the August 13th Democratic primary, in the 3rd, offers a choice between 3 Democrats who are running distinct campaigns. We, the Cap Times editorial board, we, Crute, unless you're ready to offer an endorsement, Dom, I'm not going to endorse in this race. We won't be making an endorsement in this primary race, but we'll make some observations. The Democratic frontrunners are State Rep Katrina Shanklin, Democrat from Stevens Point, and Rebecca Cook, who lost the 2022 primary to Pfaff. Both are relatively young candidates with lots of political experience and well-organized campaigns. A 3rd candidate, Eric Wilson, has raised less money and run a somewhat lower-profile campaign, but he has distinguished himself by supporting an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, among other progressive stances. As the Cap Times editorial board writes here, Dom, we would back any of them against drunken Van Orden.
It sounds like an endorsement. Curry, I'll jump in, but we have been struck by the tussling between Shanklin's and Cook's campaigns. Cook has been campaigning as an outsider who claims that career politicians make folks a little more leery, and obvious dig at Shanklin's experience as a 6-term legislator who is a prominent Assembly Democrat. That's an odd critique, as the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel illustrated last week when it published a piece headline, quote, Cook says she's a political outsider, but raked in nearly $200,000 for political work. And they quote the article. Beginning in late 2012, Cook, 36, served as a finance director for 4 congressional races in Minnesota, Michigan, Colorado, and California, raising $3.7 million in one of those contests, wrote Dan Bice. Records show that between 2015 and 2021, Cook's strategy was paid $67,191 by federal candidates and committees, and another $37,148 by state candidates, meaning the firm received more than $104,000 during that period, again, a 6-year period.
We don't $100,000 over 6 years, and I did take some objection. I read the Page 6 article Dan Bice authored, but that's not a hell of a lot of money over a decade or 6 years, even $100,000 over 6 years.
Sure, but no, I get it, and from a monetary standpoint, certainly not. But from an experience standpoint, yeah, man. I mean, 6 years between Minnesota, Michigan, Colorado, California with committees and campaigns. I mean, that's some experience, and that's not to be something to throw out. But I don't know if that means that she's an outsider, like perhaps this kid Wilson is an outsider. But as the Cap Times editorial writes, we don't begrudge Cook for her political experience. It could help in a race with Van Orden, but it's silly to suggest that this primary is an outsider versus insider contest. If the race for the 3rd District Democratic nomination is anything, it's a competition between a candidate who enjoys widespread support from elected Democratic leaders in Western Wisconsin versus a candidate who has attracted significant backing from D.C. groups. Now, Shanklin has won endorsements from State Senator Jeff Smith of Eau Claire, former State Senator Kathleen Vinehout of Buffalo. We like Kathleen. From State's Reps Jody Emerson of Eau Claire, Stephen Doyle of Onalaska, Jill Billings of La Crosse, and from dozens of current and former elected officials who've served in county and local posts throughout the district. Cook is backed by the New Democratic Coalition Action Fund and Blue Dog PAC, groups that are associated with more centrist and conservative factions of the party, and Welcome PAC, a group formed by party stalwarts who argue the voters who elected Joe Biden in 2020 were the ones who liked his centrist policies, not the Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren slice of the electorate, quote unquote.
I don't like how they characterize that, Tom.
The National Democratic Party has many wings, and they have every right to their points of view. But we believe, as a newspaper that enthusiastically backed Biden in the fall of 2020, that he won by attracting a broad cross-section of support, including that of young voters who had backed Sanders and reformers who liked Warren's persistence in the face of Republican efforts to silence her advocacy. Notably, when he ran in the 2016 Democratic presidential primary, Sanders won every county in the 3rd. Just a few weeks ago, when D.C. Democrats were fretting about Biden's rough debate performance, and before the president handed off the mantle to Harris, Sanders toured Stevens Point, Eau Claire, and La Crosse. He drew big crowds with a coalition-building appeal that Democrats could win by building working-class power. In our view, the Cap Times editorial writes that unity message makes sense in 2024.
More devil's advocates. Hello.
I am here. You are there. Are you ready?
Oh, shit.
Oops. Let me know now. Start rolling.
Go ahead and roll, dude.
Rolling.
Tune in Thursday for a throwback edition. Donald Trump has offended Jewish people. He's offended black people. What ethnic group will he offend today? Tune in to the Devil's Advocates to find out for surezies today.
I like it. I'll see what I can do with it.
All right, man.
The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media, Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show Wednesday, Hump Day, Dom. I've got a name. Actually, I've got a few names. I'll let you choose.
Okay.
The Say It To My Face Wednesday edition in honor of Vice President Kamala Harris and her statement.
I like it. Okay.
Or the Why Would He Do That Wednesday edition, Dom, in honor of Trump's appearance in front of the National Association of Black Journalists, a Q&A that was supposed to go an hour, yet after Trump was roundly booed.
Boo this man.
They cut it off about 30 minutes into an hour-long event. The Trump team cut it off. No more questions.
That's recommendation would be to honor the vice president. Say it to my face. I do not want to honor Donald Trump and his racist, asinine comments. He's rude. He's racist. He's weird. Why would he do that? I don't know. But I do know I like Kamala Harris. Say it to my face edition of the Devil's Advocates. Rich working the board, our fair audience, 844-967-2789.
Let's lead with the Democratic presumptive nominee in Atlanta last night. She had about 10,000, dude. And this was a rock concert. And Megan Thee Stallion appeared on stage. They were twerking for Harris.
They were dancing, man. It was fantastic. Well, what are they called? The Rolling Stones. Rolling Stone magazine. Conservatives are melting down over Megan Thee Stallion's, quote, hotties for Harris performance. Yeah. But I mean, I'd rather see Megan Thee Stallion up there dancing than Kid Rock and Ted Nugent and Scott Baio. I'm just saying. Dog the Bounty Hunter.
What about Trump when he does the double handy?
No, man. I'll take Megan Thee Stallion every time.
Let's start then with the event in Atlanta and the words of the vice president last night. She spoke to a very partisan crowd. I mentioned to you earlier, Dom, I watched a former Republican commentator who had to cover their ears. We've been in loud rooms, helicopters overhead, stuff like that. And it was so loud, the energy so strong in this event in Atlanta last night. This former Republican said, Georgia is absolutely back into play. I think it is. New polling out shows very, very close. And the presidency, theoretically, could go through Georgia, although I predict it goes through Wisconsin. But let's get to the sound. Let's play some Kamala Harris from last night. If you would, Rich, let's play cut one.
Georgia, it is so good to be back. And I am very clear. The path to the White House runs right through this state.
Well, she's only touring swing states now, so that makes sense.
She could say that in every swing state.
Let's play more of Kamala Harris last night. The crowd loved her. Play it for the people, Rich.
When we win this election, here's what we're going to do about it. On day one, I will take on price gouging and bring down costs.
Oh, yeah. Greedflation. That's a thing.
And what about Trump backing out of debating her? Now, she did address this last night in the crowd. They were loving it. Say it to my face, Wednesday edition of the Devil's Advocates. Play it for the people, Rich. Kamala Harris.
Well, Donald, I do hope you'll reconsider to meet me on the debate stage. Because as the saying goes, if you've got something to say, say it to my face.
No, instead he's up rage tweeting at 2:00 in the morning.
Now, I would point out,
keyboard warrior style. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Right Wing Talk Radio, Dan O'Donnell, the prince of Wisconsin mornings on Righty Whitey Talk Radio. He played Kamala Harris speaking in Atlanta last night, and then played sound of Hillary Clinton using sort of a fake black colloquialism. Once upon a time, it's still out there. Everything. The internet remembers. And he's effectively saying Kamala Harris is faking it. This black accent, she's faking it, just like Hillary did. And I'm thinking to myself, you realize she's a black woman, right? You telling her that she's faking being too black, offending you because she's, showing a little too much personality for your taste, Whitey Righty Talk Radio host Dan O'Donnell?
Come on.
This is, I believe, how he led his show
I
today.
love it when I hear white men tell black women how they need to act, talk, dance, marry, vote. Keep doing that, fellas.
Well, you should have seen Trump at the National Association of Black Journalists. Say it to her face. Trump questioned her blackness in front of black journalists today. We've got the sound. Let's get to it. But why would he do it Wednesday edition for all you MAGAs listening? Why would he go in front of black journalists and expose himself for the racist he is? He couldn't help it, Dom. Let's play some of this for the people, Rich. Let's get it started with the Trump. Cut one.
I have been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act.
Better than Barack Obama?
I mean, the journalist, I believe Scott was her she was awesome. She was on point. She had some really tough questions. We'll get into more of that, but let's hear some of the sound. I believe the next cut, number 5, will be the comments he had on the vice president's race. Please, Rich.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she
black.
Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman.
I respect either one.
Wow.
Are you freaking kidding me?
He's so condescending on top of the racism, man.
What, she didn't make proper declaration of her ethnicity to racist Donald Trump?
To Donald Trump, yes. To white guy Donald Trump. Old white rich guy.
Because I'm pretty
Donald
damn
Trump.
sure Donald Trump through his entire life didn't have to hear how someone declared themselves before he leveled the N-word at him. Read his book, Trump Revealed. I mean, this guy's been a racist back. He's got a federal decree. His policies were racist all the way back to the 1970s, failing to rent homes and properties, apartments in New York City to black people. They'd put a C, and I'll let you guess what the C was for on their application, and they would always set them aside to the point where they got hammered with a federal lawsuit, which of course they never really properly followed, Dom. The consent decree, Trump signed it and then didn't follow it.
Well, shocking. Shocking, I tell you. More from Trump today addressing the National Association of Black Journalists, talking about the January 6th convictions. Would he pardon? Let's hear cut 6, please.
Mr. President, I would love to ask you about January 6th. You've called yourself the candidate of law and order.
Yeah.
When Time Magazine asked you if you would consider pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely.
Sure.
You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke. Were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to modern day. Like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol. horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint that will never actually come off, especially in the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff. It'll never, you'll see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed that city?
But, sir, my question is on those.
What's going to happen to
my
the people
question is
that
on
tried
those
to
rioters who assaulted officers.
You have to
would
ask,
you pardon
what's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You
if
would
they're
pardon
innocent,
those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way,
they've been convicted. Even the audience full of black journalists laughed at the man.
I mean, if they're innocent, they wouldn't have to be pardoned, dude. What an idiot.
They were his people, though, Dom. I think we've got one more to play from Trump. While there's time, let's play it for the people. Rich, it went on.
By the way, the Supreme Court just well, they were convicted by a very tough system. They were, how come the people that tried to burn down Minneapolis, how come the people that took over a large percentage of Seattle, how come nothing happened to them?
That's not
how
true.
come the
But,
people
sir, we're
that,
talking about people that were seen beating officers
We're talking about
with flagpoles,
buildings.
dragging them down the stairs. They're on video. Have you seen that video, sir?
Oh, really? Well, they
you would
shot.
pardon those. You would pardon those rioters?
They shot a young lady in the face who was protesting. They shot her in the face. You know, nobody died that day. You do know that. But people died in Seattle. Nobody died, but people died in Minneapolis. You know, people died in Minneapolis. And nothing happens, and nobody ever talks, and nothing happens to those people.
What
but
about
you
the
went
lady
after
that got
the
shot in the
J6
face?
people with a vengeance. And I'll tell you what about the cops that were, and I'm all for the police, as you know, but what about the police that are ushering everybody into the Capitol? Go in, go in, go in. What about that? Look, nothing is perfect in life.
Nothing is perfect in life. If you didn't hear the person in the audience, he yelled, "You lie." I was there. Donald Trump, this was perhaps the worst decision of the campaign season so far. Why would you do that? Why would you go to the National Association of Black Journalists and you didn't even hear, folks, the way he insulted the panel, the journalist he went after, the ABC commentator. Very mean, very, very nasty. Come back, more devils. Never mean or nasty.
You're listening to Mad Radio WMDX, home of the John and Gordy Show.
Is doing it yourself not working out? Don't need the whole building for your business anymore? Call Altus Commercial Real Estate. They'll help you find quality tenants to fill your vacancies. They market, they show, they negotiate the terms. They do all the legwork and keep you informed. Call Altus Commercial Real Estate at 608-338-1101. 608-338-1101.
Every business seeks an advantage, whether it's having the best location, hiring top talent, or spotting trends before they happen. And now, the United States Postal Service can give your business a new advantage. Introducing USPS Ground Advantage. Reliable and affordable 2 to 5 day package shipping. It's the advantage you need at the price you want. Get the Ground Advantage at USPS.com/advantage. The United States Postal Service, delivering for America.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio.
Hey, Brad from Zero Res Madison here. What's the best way to clean your carpet? Well, not surprisingly, it's the same way you clean your clothes. You wouldn't clean a dirty shirt by running a white cloth over the top of it, nor would you try to get it clean by sprinkling chemicals and rubbing it in. For a real clean, you need hot water, agitation, a fresh, healthy clean with no residue, call Zero Res Madison or schedule online. Zero Res, spell it forward or backward, it's the right way to clean.
Kicking ass and taking names since the Wisconsin Uprising, the Devil's Advocates.
And we are back from the 420 break. Thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show. You can always join this political party, talk or text. Hit us up 844-967-2789.
Why would he do that? Why would you go and appear before the National Association of Black Journalists and then get asked the very first question and attack the black journalist? As the Hill is reporting it, Dom, and of course Donald Trump is the subject of the attack on the black journalist and the vice president's own ethnicity, but, setting that aside just for a moment.
we have to set so many things aside to get this most current travesty. I have the actual question that Rachel Scott, the ABC News anchor, who, and we played some of the sound. I would suggest you guys should watch the whole thing. Go find it somewhere. We're not going to play the whole thing for you. But Rachel Scott, I think, did a masterclass on trying to hold Trump to account. And the very first question, according to the Raw story, Crute, let me just throw this out there. I want to start by addressing the elephant in the room, sir. You have pushed false claims about some of your rivals, from Nikki Haley to former President Barack Obama, saying that they're not born in the United States, which is not true. You have told 4 congresswomen of color who were American citizens to go back to where they came from. You have used words like animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you've used language like that? Trump responded with anger. Of course he did. Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner. You didn't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network, a terrible network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. The former president claimed he had done so much for the black population of this country. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And it goes on and on. A little flavor for the guy. And of course, like the Harris campaign saying basically, yeah, hey, this is exactly who he is. So why did he do it, Crute? He did it for the racist megas, man. He did it because I'm the tough guy. I'll go into the lion's den, quote unquote, and I'll tell them what I think about them. Was she Indian or black? Why are you so horrible? That's this terrible question. You didn't even say hello. American Bridge has a mock-up, a tweet out there of a cut-up of some of the nasty things he's saying to them. Oh, you're terrible. Typical Trump. So he was not respectful. He was not engaging. He was not answering the questions. He was insulting and racist. And eventually they pulled the plug after the room, mostly of journalists, but not all of them, started booing him. They pulled the plug after like 30 minutes because he was crashing and burning. Because that's what he does. He burns everything down.
Well, and the most important part he burned down, Dom, was when he described the vice president by her race. And he said something, and I'm going to read the quote here from thehill.com. I've known her for a long time indirectly, not directly very much, Trump said. She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I don't think she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black. And now she wants to be known as black, Trump said. So I didn't know, is she Indian or is she black? She's always identified as a black woman. The journalist Scott interjected. That's never been in question. Ask any of your racist buddies what they perceive her to be. They're not drawing nuance between her Indian and her black heritage.
Her South Asian versus her black heritage. But of course, Donald Trump, he is the arbiter, right? He is the one to decide how a black woman should identify, how a black woman should speak, how a black woman should vote, what a black woman should do with their bodies. I mean, this is pure Trump. That's exactly. Hey, man, you got what you get what you wanted. That what you got. Exactly who he is.
Now, the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, called Trump's comments repulsive and insulting. And the Harris campaign called Trump's appearance on Wednesday a taste of the chaos and division that has been the hallmark of Trump's MAGA rallies this entire campaign. It is also exactly what the American people will see from him across the debate stage as Vice President Harris offers a vision of opportunity and freedom for all Americans, according to Michael Tyler, her campaign communications. All Donald Trump needs to do is stop playing games and actually show up to the debate on September 10th. And what did Kamala say from the stage last night in Atlanta?
Face.
Got something to say to me? Say it to my face, Donald Trump. So contrast these two images, Dom. You got like 10,000 people in majority minority Atlanta showing up, partying their asses off with Megan Thee Stallion and Kamala Harris. And it was a party, and they were twerking. They were having a good time. And, of course, the right's melting down because they were twerking and having a good time. And these are black women, and they don't quite understand it, Dom. They're not doing what they would have them do. Don't they know that they need to act as directed by white men?
Especially rich, white, old men. Especially.
You mean people like Trump?
Exactly.
844-967-2789. Now, Dom, we have seen so many different times during the course of Trump's, about 8-year political career?
Oh, God.
I mean, he also attacked birtherism. He was like one of the originators of the questioning, the delegitimization of Barack Obama, right? Where's your birth certificate? Need the long form birth certificate. Claimed he was sending people to Hawaii to investigate the birth certificate.
Someone should look into that.
Well, that was part of Scott's question to him, the ABC commentator, one of the panelists. Harris Faulkner tried to save this man. She's the only black person that I see with any frequency on the Foxy News, Dom. And she's one of the daytime commentators. And she tried to save Trump from himself. Played nice, sucked up to the man. And he just couldn't contain himself. He just had to let his true color shine down.
He always does. If one thing you can say about Trump, and it's not what it is what he says, but this is who he is. Take him at face value. When he runs out of material, he is the snake that bites you, and he'll tell you about it. Why? Why did you bite me? Because I'm a snake. I mean, you don't need anything more than that. Oh yeah, and he's an insurrectionist bastard.
And probably a racist.
Oh, definitely a racist.
Light them up. The phone lines, they're open and toll free. 844-967-2789. If the boss is watching, just shoot me on the text line. DM.
Suave.
Civic Media's mission with stations across Wisconsin. Find your favorites at civicmedia.us.
Civic Media News. I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Early voting for Wisconsin's August 13th primary is underway. The Wisconsin Interfaith Voter Engagement Campaign is reaching out to registered voters who sat out the midterms 2 years ago.
Listening to them, valuing what they have to say, and understanding why perhaps they've been disengaged for a while.
The campaign's Rhonda Lindner says just getting people to even talk about voting again leads to more civic engagement. Wisconsin healthcare companies say artificial intelligence should be limited and monitored. Officials from UW Health say they use AI for in-room transcription services during medical appointments and to answer patients' questions. A spokesperson says a doctor or a nurse reviews all messages before they're sent to patients. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. America is in a mental health crisis. 1 in 5 people is suffering with a mental health issue. The pandemic really showed us just how anybody can be susceptible, but it can hit people of color the hardest. Data shows they're less likely to receive treatment and have far more barriers in their way to do so. Dane County has a new partnership to explore racial disparities in treatment and to improve outreach to communities of color. Danielle Mitchell-Vance from Journey Mental Health is one of the people leading the advisory group.
What can we do there? How can we address these barriers? One important key is go to the source, include the source, include the communities, include our BIPOC communities in these conversations on how can we improve mental health.
Nationwide, there are 350 people for every one single mental health provider. They want everyone to have equal access to the care they need. For mental health resources, we have a story up on our website, mad.radio. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei-Olson, WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. He's qualified, he's white, he's a dude. Actually, the dude. And he's for Kamala Harris. So says Jeff Bridges, star of 1998's Coen brother cult classic The Big Lebowski. Variety reports that Bridges took part in a Zoom call titled White Dudes for Harris. Joining Bridges on the call were fellow actors Sean Astin, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Bradley Whitford, and Luke Skywalker himself, Mark Hamill. They were joined by various Democratic governors in pledging their support to Kamala Harris. Bridges brought out his best dude voice, saying, "I'm excited, man." Divorce can be rough on a couple. For example, according to TMZ, Ben Affleck and Jennifer Lopez are splitting and have listed their Beverly Hills home for $60 million, forcing Affleck to buy a much smaller house for only $20 million. According to TMZ, Lopez celebrated her birthday alone by throwing herself a lavish Bridgerton-themed party. There's something so fancy about that, and yet so sad. For more showbiz fun, tune in to Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 7 to 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
Your news, conversations, and a whole lot of fun. It's all on your local Civic Media radio station or the Civic Media app.
It is going to be warm and humid today, partly cloudy with a high of 88 and a heat index in the mid to upper 90s. And there is a chance of thunderstorms this afternoon. Tonight, scattered thunderstorms 70. Tomorrow, scattered thunderstorms with a high of 84. I'm meteorologist Sean Cable. Temperature now is 90.
Tons of glass artists share the same passion for eye-catching art as Ignite Glass and Gifts. So we're showcasing their work alongside our talented local artists and our in-house Ignite artists. The latest techniques, the hottest colors, and mind-blowing designs are here for you to enjoy. Madison's favorite for glass, gifts, and vape. Ignite Glass and Gifts. Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and O'Dana Road. Plus IgniteGlassandGifts.com. Do your eyes a favor and see this stuff.
DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our debt and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Tom's favorite slimming black, white, or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs, exclusive merchandise of the greatest radio show ever. Only at DevilRadioswag.com. Because we got bills too.
Jane Matnair and Greg Bach.
Coming up on the show, we talk to the Humane Animal Welfare Society of Waukesha County. They got a special deal going on. Sports with Paul Noonan and Weather and Wine with Brittany Marie.
You're listening to the radio show your mother warned you about, The Devil's Advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Say It to My Face Wednesday edition, Dom's preference, or the Why Would He Do That Wednesday edition, in regards to Donald Trump going to the National Association of Black Journalists. And the speculation over on the MSNBC, Dom, he meant to do that. NBC News' Jonathan Allen noted Trump began the discussion in a combative style, attacking ABC News reporter Rachel Scott. He thinks Trump was playing to his base on the dime of the NABJ. But this is what Donald Trump wanted out of today. He has got playing to the base, trying to push up energy and excitement from white males in the MAGA movement. He wanted this fight with black journalists. Michael Hardaway, former aide to Rep. Hakeem Jeffries and Senator Dick Durbin, attacked the National Association of Black Journalists, saying that they should have anticipated this would happen. His goal, to John's point, is to go out in front of an audience of black people to play and insult them, to play to his MAGA base on the right. It's horrifically insane. Those same people who are descendants of childhood slavery in America, he also said that his legal trials were the worst thing to happen in American history. And so this was a horrific situation that was completely preventable. Now, I know the
I disagree.
co-chairperson
I disagree
of this
wholeheartedly.
organization.
If that would be the case, Crute, then why did they pull the plug 32 minutes into the 1 hour thing? If he was out there just to do that, what? Because it's terrible. He's saying terrible things, and maybe it does get the megas riled up. But you're not doing anything to your suburban women. You're not expanding your voting block, man. You might get them riled up, but they're not going to vote twice. And they pulled the plug before it was over because he was crashing and burning. Now, his intent may have been that, but he went overboard, man. He's terrible. There's literally, and I just retweeted it out there. And look, find us on Twitter at Devil Radio. He reaches over and grabs, apparently, what's her name? Rachel Scott, the ABC News anchor, the water, and really tightens the lid on her water and puts it back. Doesn't drink it, doesn't do anything. Reaches over, tightens it, and puts it back. Seems, guys, it's out there, man. It is out there. He did so much damage today to his campaign. It's hard to even fathom. Now, I'm sure the makers were happy about it, but he didn't get anybody, man. He lost independence today.
On the WAUK text line, Liz from Saukville messages in, after these last few days of Trump gaffes, I think Trump has now surpassed the gift that keeps on giving to the Democrats. J.D. Vance. Andrew from Verona says we need more often. Trump needs to be surrounded by an audience that aren't just a bunch of MAGAs. Yeah, I don't disagree, but it's not like he's going to enemy territory very often. The other thing I found very ironic is complaining mightily, first on social media and then from the stage, from the Diaz, that Harris apparently was potentially going to be entertained on a virtual in September. I was told I had to be here. I couldn't do it on Zoom. He was so mad about that, that they might accommodate someone other than Trump because they didn't want Trump on Zoom.
I'm here under false pretenses, is what he said. And he had to wait a half hour because this woman couldn't get her gear straight. I mean, the guy was just insulting on every single level with everything that came out of his mouth. Yes, he'll pardon the insurrectionist bastards that he called to the Capitol that beat the hell out of that thin blue line that all you law and order megas claim to love. He's going to what? Allow that to happen. He's going to allow that to stand because look at over here, look at these protests, and look at over there. And all that belies the fact that this wasn't just a regular protest. This was an insurrection. This was an act to stop the counting, man. This was to stop Biden from becoming president. I don't know what you call it, but that was more than just, some people getting out of hand and protesting. Most of them, 98% of the Black Lives Matter protesters, after George Floyd, after people are getting sick of unarmed young black men getting murdered by police and seemingly getting away with it. That's a whole different thing than trying to stop an election, to try to overturn an election, to hold on to power when you lost an election.
Act like that's a bad thing.
I mean, it seems to put it, towards the top of the list.
844-967-2789. But I've known you for a long time. It's a long list.
Thank you.
L.A. Tom, welcome back. How you doing, fella?
Hey, Tom.
Hey, guys. First off, I'm actually watching a little bit on YouTube. Crute, it looks like you may have lost some weight, or maybe it's the light blue shirt that you're wearing today. So I wanted to compliment.
It seems unlikely I've lost weight, Tom.
All right.
Last night, Liza had some women over to the house. I was up drinking margaritas and eating tacos till way too late.
It was Tuesday. What are you supposed to do?
That's not going to help that anyway. But what I'd like to say is either, we can call him Don Old Trump, or we can call him Dementia Don, or we could just call him, you can call J.D. Vance. You can call him J.D. Weirdo because he wants to change his name 12 times over.
Could we call Trump the Grand Wizard?
Well, either that or Donald the Fossil, too, would work. But But, he is a dodger. The thing about him is he dodges debates. He dodges the war. He is a dodger, Donald Dodger. But what I wanted to say is I thought this interview today was probably one of the best interviews I have seen because they actually did some fact checking without doing fact checking in real time. Now, if the rest of the media could actually pick up on a clue on this and actually start doing it and quit acting like Donald Trump is the critique in chief, like he's Simon Cowell or something up there, always critiquing everybody else, and tell him to shut up because of the fact that an interview is where you're asked questions. It's not where you're giving your damn opinion. So, Donald, sit your ass down and listen and to the questions. And the reporter was right. Everything she said, finally someone came out and spoke out on his lies in real time, not where they just go and say it after the show is over, like a CBS Morning News or whatever, and then later on through 5 more shows that they do, they fact check him. No, fact check his ass in real time and everything that he does. And I'll tell you what, this election will be a blowout. And no, I don't think this interview helped him at all. Like Dom said, this made him look like the ass that he is.
Well, it certainly helps draw a contrast with him and the black female, I thought she was an Indian candidate.
Tom, it's so disgusting. And this is one of the first interviews I recall him doing without not a friendly interviewer, right? He was on the Foxies recently. What was her name? The blonde lady on Fox Lies had him recently. And she's not
Laura Ingraham.
Yeah, she's not holding him to account. Now, Rachel Scott came out, lined him up, gave a bunch of examples of the things that he said, the elephant in the room as she described it. And he got all defensive. Oh, you're so rude. Why do you didn't even say hello and welcome me? What, man? That's the question. Answer the question. He's just, he can't handle it. He's not used to people pushing back and holding him to account. And when he gets out of his element, when he gets his uncomfortable like that, that's when he lashes out. And the racism and the misogyny just bubbles to the surface. It can't even stay below. It's his natural reaction.
It was also Scott from ABC that asked the very specific and direct question and tried to bring him back on the January 6th pardon. That was also Scott from ABC.
Yeah.
Seemed like a very capable journalist.
Absolutely.
Now, I would
Great
contrast that with some of the friendly treatment he got from Harris Faulkner, the Foxy News representative on the black journalist panel. And just for the sake of reference, Tom, the term Grand Wizard usually refers to the leader of the Klan.
Yes, the KKK.
I just want to make sure that didn't get lost on anyone.
And Faulkner actually gasped. I think she said, "Oh my goodness," when Donald Trump went off on Scott for asking a pointed question that he took as insulting. Well, if listening to the things that you have said in past brought up to you in the context of why should black voters trust you now, if that bothers you, then maybe you should apologize and maybe not say those kinds of things and account for it. But no, he can't do it. He attacks, because that's what he does. 844-967-2789. Dick from Madison, you are up. Happy days, Dick. What do you got for us?
Hey, Dick.
Oh, do you think he'll make talk of the town at the front part of New Yorker magazine with this? I mean, all jobs are black jobs. What the hell was that supposed to mean, first of all? And then, I disagreed with a gal vehemently that was on a panel after it on MSNBC. I don't know who she was, but she said, there's a lot to unpack here. And I went, no, there isn't. There's nothing to unpack here. He just proved again he is a devout, racist, bigot, pig, misogynistic a-hole on steroids.
Yeah, but that's who his
Trump
voters like, man. That's what they want. They want the "you're fired." This is a caricature of himself, and he's going to the extreme. He's getting even more like that, or at least publicly like that, because he's got nowhere else to go. What's he going to talk about? What's the policy? Well, certainly not Project 2025. I don't even know anything about it. And what I know about, I really don't like. The guy's, he's just waffling. And so he's trying to, I guess, motivate the base. But even that, man, they cut him off His own staff cut him off after 30 minutes.
Yeah, because I think they knew that. I don't think this is going to play real well with independent voters and a litany of different voters out there. Anybody that's normal and not ready for the rubber wall will tell isn't ready to vote for this guy.
Dick,
Thank you for the call, Dick. Appreciate it, man.
probably a pretty fair assessment. I've got a few texts I think are noteworthy here. Dom. Cam from Nina. Got a couple from Cam. I'll read a couple. I just watched the clip, the Trump clip, right before tuning in. Good timing. Yeah, this was complete dunderhead move. How do you even try to say that you're better than the guy who gave freedom to the African Americans? Damn, man, I just want someone to twist his nipples and jab him in the throat.
Throat punching rhetorically.
And then Cam goes on to say, Dom, I think you're wrong. All caps. He didn't do it because he was trying to make the racist MAGAs happy. It wasn't for them. He did it because he's racist. And Crute read this out loud because he likes reading out loud things that say Dom is wrong because you two are lovely little pot stirrers in my favorite radio show. You have excellent taste, Cam. Some would call us the greatest radio show ever.
It's true.
844-967-2789. It's a phone number. It's a text line. Andrew from Verona says, even if this was part of some grand strategy by the Trump team, I sure hope the Dems put all these clips, sound bites, into some great Harris ads.
I don't know how you can't. I mean, every reaction that Trump said, from insulting Rachel Scott to questioning whether or not VP Harris is black to saying he'd pardon only the innocent J6ers. I mean, there's so much there. So much there.
Don, we've also got some new sound from JD Vance.
Just to add on top?
It's not advancing the cause for the MAGA much.
No.
I've got a great nickname suggestion from the text line, Dom. The newest for Donald Trump. The Grand Wizard of Weird.
Nice.
That is a clever text coming in from the 920. You could be part of this fine program. And Bill Press is going to be part as well, our podcaster, pundit. He's a friend of ours. He'll have some pretty unvarnished things to say about Donald Trump today, I suspect, in the happier happy hour. But until Bill arrives, could be your turn. Join us, 844-967-2789. And a lot of people are disagreeing with my assessment that Josh Shapiro will be Kamala Harris's VP pick. Then why are they launching in Pennsylvania? That's the logic of
I got to keep you guessing, man.
prognostication, Dom. They're not launching in Minneapolis. Sorry, Tim Walz. Come back. More Devil's Advocates.
You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX, Madison's home for Matnair on Air.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio.
This is Chad Spade for Chad's Design Build. We're proud to employ some of the best carpenters and remodeling professionals in our industry. Are you honest and hardworking? Do you love to improve people's lives by improving their homes? Chad's Design Build offers excellent compensation and benefits focused on outstanding customer service, professional design, construction management, and craftsmanship, all in a nurturing, positive workplace. Whether you're thinking about remodeling your home or considering joining our team, go to chadsdesignbuild.com to learn more.
Partner now with the greatest radio show ever and start getting return on your investment immediately. The Devil's Advocates are a small business just like you, and like you, we can't afford advertising that offers no return. The Devil's Advocates listeners support our sponsors and the mission. Tell you when your messages are working and put cash in your register. So invest your ad dollars to of your business, hold special events at your location, interview your staff for satisfied customers to lift your business. Contact us today, Crute at darnwy.com. That's Crute at darnwy.com.
Looking for a roundup of the day's important headlines in quick podcast form? Search no more. Find it now on the WMDX website at mad.radio. Your news just for the Madison area. I'm Terry Bell with WMDX News.
I would have gotten away with it too if it wasn't for those meddling devil's advocates.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocate Radio Show. Phone lines are open. Going there shortly. Talk or text 844-967-2789. Our pal Bill Press. He's a podcaster. He's a pundit. He's a prognosticator. He's going to join us at the 5 o'clock hour.
Dom, Scott, very impressive. This ABC journalist. She probably the strongest of all the panelists. You do have to consider Harris Faulkner from Foxy News was one of the three. Here is another statement she made, and we'll get to your phone calls. I see you there, Wisco Paul. Be patient. You'll be first in the queue, and then you can line up behind Wisco at 844-967-2789. She asked, you've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with white supremacists at Mar-a-Lago Resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, is why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that? And then after he insulted the journalist, he went on to say he didn't even know Kamala Harris was black till she declared herself black. And that's when the real question marks started. Racist or intentional behavior? What do you think, Dom? I just
Can
want
it
to
be
commend
both?
Rachel Scott. Rachel Scott did a great job trying to hold Trump accountable. That's the way journalism is supposed to work.
And that's
so
why
get the
Donald Trump
opportunity.
goes to Laura Ingraham and not Rachel Scott. His reply, I don't think I've ever been asked such a question, ask a question in such a horrible manner. A first question, you didn't even say hello. How are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network. A terrible network. I think it's disgraceful. I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. So just ask him. He'll tell you.
Well, best since Lincoln. There was a qualifier.
Oh, okay. Since Lincoln.
Not the best ever. I guess Lincoln and the Emancipation Proclamation, you know, that edges Trump out. But up until then, you know, he's obviously cleared the deck.
I mean, they could, because they love him so much back. That's why they were booing and gasping. And even Fox Lies Harris Faulkner, when he started insulting Rachel Scott, said, "Oh my goodness." She was taken aback. Well, you should be used to it by now. And, so was this a good idea to bring him in or a bad idea to bring him in? That's not, I don't know the answer to that. I think it
was a good idea.
I think it's a great in the sense that we see how obviously racist and unhinged and weird this cat is. So in that regard, yeah, man, the more that people can see what the guy really is, I guess that's a benefit. 844-967-2789. Wisco. Paulie, you are up. Welcome, man. What do you got?
Hey, Paul.
Hey, Devils. I'll agree with Crute. I think the governor of Pennsylvania is going to be the VP. He brings a lot to the table. I think Pennsylvania, you got to have that to win. And Trump has been weird for 10 years. I think it was 10 years ago.
His
longer
whole
than
freaking
that,
life,
man.
dude. I saw him in a suit that was like blue velvet, only the bottom was shorts. I mean, this was his fashion choice in the 1970s, a blue velvet shorts and sport coat.
Is that
this
velvet?
guy's always been weird.
I don't even know how he okay, let's put it this way. He made it through 4 years. I don't know how he got elected against Hillary just ran a bad campaign. But I watched this guy for 4 years, and I couldn't take it. I couldn't wait till his presidency ended, and he's still popular with the Republicans. I don't get any of that. So I don't know if today hurt him at all, but it was nice to see a journalist hold him accountable and ask him questions that he had no idea how to answer them. It actually was a great job by the ABC reporter, and maybe people seen enough. Hey, I've got a quick question for you two. It's this election in the end will come down to what? The independent voters, correct? Because you're not going to change the Trumpsters no matter what, and I'm certainly, no matter what he does, not going to change me because I've seen enough of this nut job. So it's going to come down to the independent voters. Will this change their thought? Will this help that? Thanks for the show, guys.
I don't think he helped this cause.
No, that doesn't help your cause with independent, undecided voters in swing states. No, no, but because Donald Trump doesn't have it within him, Paul, to think that anything he's ever done was something that he should apologize for, ever. So in that sense, no, I don't think that, independent, undecided voters who, again, maybe aren't even tuning in even to this point. I mean, it's hard to see how you couldn't at least know, well, the President Joe Biden dropped out and the vice president. She's now, consolidating the support, and she's got the delegates, and it's going to be her. I mean, so people maybe know that. But, I mean, literally, folks are just starting to tune in now, man. It's August tomorrow. The sprint is starting to go faster and faster. And when people dial in, when they tune in, when they check out, all of a sudden their news feed or their Twitter feed or their whatever, wherever they get their news is full of Donald Trump just being a jackass to these black journalists. I can't see how that tells anybody who is an independent mind and undecided thinking, well, yeah, man, that's what I want. Yeah. Is she ever black or is she Indian? Well, someone should look into it. The dude literally said someone should look into it. What? No, that doesn't help him, Paul. It hurts him.
Gretchen from Green Bay says Shapiro supports private school vouchers. I hope it's not him. I'm not saying I'm rooting for him. I'm just saying because of geographic location and the fact they're running out the BP choice in Pennsylvania, probably Shapiro. Matt from Germantown. Has CJ responded to this interview on the show yet? Tell you what, CJ, if you call now, we'll hold a little bit of time at the end. Today, I promise, we'll make time for you. But you got to hold for like an hour first. Because we got a fine guest. He is Bill Press. We got a happier happy hour, the Wednesday edition. Either say it to my face Wednesday, or why would he do that Wednesday? We'll ask Bill Press what he prefers. More Devils.
WMDX, Madison's home for Nightlight with Pete Schwaba. Pete Schwaba. On the next Nightlight, I welcome local filmmaker and Comic-Con attendee Craig Knitt, who will give us a full rundown of the event. And Emmy-winning comedian Dwayne Kennedy joins the show.
Nightlight with Pete Schwaba, weeknights 7 till 9.
Babes, what are you doing?
What? Just mowing the lawn.
No, it's blazing hot and dry out here. Don't you remember? Smokey Bear says.
Avoid using power equipment when it's windy or dry.
Where'd you learn this?
Oh, it's on
SmokeyBear.com with many other wildfire prevention tips.
Right. Thanks, honey bear.
Because remember, only you can prevent wildfires.
Brought to you by the USDA Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
This is your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected locally across the Civic Media Network. You're listening to Mad Radio, WMDX 1580 AM Columbus, W224.
Hey there, Bill.
Hey, how you doing? All right. Here we
We're all
go.
hooked up. You sound fine.
All right, good.
So
Thank you.
I don't know if it was email something. Last time we had you on, something was pinging or something. So whatever that is, I think something you could not shut down, but I guess I'm reinforcing.
I put my headphones on. I recall.
That's right.
now.
That's right.
Yeah.
You did that.
I can do
Okay.
that again.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything. It was, well, first of all, I'll turn my desktop off, so that won't be pinging.
All right.
But this may be pinging. But if you hear it, then that's no good. Yeah. And nothing has happened so far. Let's see. There.
Oh.
Do you hear
Yes,
that?
I did. Yes, I did.
All right. Earphones are in.
All right.
Earphones are in now.
Okay.
Okay. So.
All right. You sound good.
All right. Thank you.
Good signal. About 5.5 minutes, something like that.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. I'm a little early. I got plenty.
Yeah.
I'll just
Okay.
work here. Right.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
The Devil's Advocates radio show is broadcast under a time brokerage agreement between Devil Radio and Civic Media Inc. Some portions of this program may be pre-recorded. Warning, you are about to listen to the greatest radio show ever. And due to contractual obligations and to shield our airwaves and corporate licensees from any semblance of liability, responsibility, and gullibility, we must tell you the views represented on this show are not necessarily those of this station or its management. This radio show contains differing points of view on current political topics, and due to the nature of its contents, it should be heard by everyone. Thank you for listening. Now live from the Civic Media Studios in Madison, Wisconsin, where the political party is just beginning, welcome to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Friends proving it's never personal, only politics.
Please allow me to introduce myself.
And now, here's your hosts, Dom and Crute.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show, the Say It to My Face Wednesday edition. Or, if you prefer, why would he do that Wednesday edition? Rolling into a happy hour. We got a fine guest. He joins us right now live via stream. He's a pundit. He's a podcaster. He's a friend of the Devil's Advocates. Bill Press, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, guys. Hey, so the last time we talked, you were in Milwaukee, and nothing has happened since.
No, nothing.
I mean, God. Nothing has happened since except the whole world turned upside down.
It
right?
certainly did, yeah.
By the way, in the right way.
Yeah, amen, brother.
Amen, I must say, right?
Bill Press, what did you think of Kamala Harris at a overflow rally in Atlanta last night? Like 10,000, Megan Thee Stallion. It was like a rock concert. And she gave Trump the ultimate schoolyard taunt. If you're going to say it to my face. In other words, don't be a chicken. Come debate me, Trump. Apparently Trump's, lacking courage suddenly to go debate the Democratic candidate, Bill. He's wanted to start there.
Well, look, he's a coward. He's a chicken, right? He cannot. I got to tell you, if Joe Biden planned this out, right, and I'm not saying he did, he could not have planned it out better. Number one, the timing. You let them have a whole week. You let them have a whole week making the case to run against Joe Biden. Then you pull the rug out from under them and say, ha, I wasn't going to run anyway. Number one. Number two, you put up against Donald Trump the one person he cannot handle, can't stand, can't deal with, and that's a woman. That's especially a black woman, right? And I'll tell you, my prediction is he will never get on the debate stage with her because he's probably seen clips of her taking on Brett Kavanaugh when she was a United States Senator on the Judiciary Committee. She is one badass woman, right? And she would not take any crap from Donald Trump. None of the stuff that he got away with Joe Biden would Kamala Harris do. And right now, remember, Trump originally said, oh, yeah, I can't wait to debate her. And they said, well, we're not sure who they're going to nominate now. So we got to wait until they officially nominate her, and then we'll decide. I mean, he will. He's looking for any excuse not to get on stage with her. And I thought it was great yesterday when she just looked right at the camera and said, hey, Donald, bring it on, baby. Basically, yeah. Say it to my face, coward. We're going to see that. That's the nominee we're going to have. That's the opponent Donald Trump's going to have, and he cannot. You can see it right now. He's all over the place. Look at when he was at the Black Journalist today, which is a disgrace. The fact that they invited him, he spent his entire lifetime, starting when he was a teenager working for his father, denying blacks the right to live in their apartments. He's an outright racist. His entire life proves that. And they invite him to speak to the Black Journalists after he's insulted them for the last 8 or 12 years from the White House and after the White House. But at any rate.
Okay, but Bill, on that note, let's just go there for just a second. We played some of the clips. It's all over social media. His reaction, Rachel Scott, I mean, just absolutely terrible. But do you think, was anything What was really positive that came out of this in your mind? I get you think about why would they do that? And you articulate some reasons why perhaps the black community, black journalists wouldn't want to. But he is a newsmaker, and he came out and said some pretty Trumpian racist things. Do you think that is a good thing? At least as given the independence and not undecided, a real flavor of what the man's all about.
I'll answer that question if you give me the name of one non-MAGA person who would be impressed by what he said today, who would decide to vote for Donald Trump based on what he said today, which is saying that she's never been black all of her life. You know, she just decided to turn the corner, become black. This is a woman who her father is black. She went to Howard University. She's a longtime member of the leading black women's sorority in the United States of America. She was, I mean,
but did they used to be like the Indian sorority? Did they change their mind too, Bill? You know, I mean, I get it, man. I mean, you and I understand the facts and the reality of this thing, but to your point, not one non-mega person is going to be impressed by that. To the point, then, was it a good idea for the National Association of Black Journalists to expose him like that?
I don't know. I would. Where I am member. Right, I probably would have resigned. I would not have invited. I
believe some did.
Some did. I don't want to give this racist, sexist. I want to be careful here. I don't want my own language to equal Donald Trump's. Right. I don't want to give him that exposure. I think for journalists to give him that platform, right? To me, it's just like when CNN gave him one whole hour against Caitlin Collins. And they couldn't handle him, and all he did was spout his lies, you know. So why give him that time? I would not have done it, and he did not gain any votes by it, for sure.
But Scott from ABC certainly gained my respect, and certainly that of her colleagues. I think the American people. She did every part what she should have done as a journalist. Tried to hold him accountable. Tried to make him answer the question that was put before him.
Yes,
and if he refuses, well, then that's on Trump. But I thought it was great for exposing the American people to this. Maybe I disagree with you. It's a rarity, Bill, but...
No, we could. It's just, I'm tired of the media treating Trump like he's a legitimate, serious candidate. I mean, he is an aberration to the American political system, right? You go back 200 years, right? We've never had anybody as un-American who's totally against everything that America stands for as this guy. And the media just overlooks the fact that he sent an armed mob to attack the United States Capitol and still hasn't accepted the results of the 2000 election and says he's going to pardon everybody who took place in it and then turn the Justice Department into his own cop force to lock up his political opponents. And then they put him up on the stage and say, well, Kamala says this. On the other hand, Donald Trump says this. I mean, Jesus, you know, I think the media rightly has to say, there's some guidelines here for American politics, and this guy is out of bounds. And
Bill, would you interview Donald Trump?
No.
I would. Hell yeah, I would.
Yeah.
I'd take all sorts of pot shots till he hung up or walked out.
And you know
what? I would do it, Bill.
Yeah, and you know what? He would talk all over you. He would tell all the same lies. He would do what he did to you. You're good. You're strong. I love your work, man. I love my work. But I know it would be a Donald Trump show. He would talk all over you. He would tell all the same lies. He would not answer your questions. And he would attack you and he would attack anybody else. And you'd lose control of that from the moment it started.
Well, maybe Dom would, but
well, I mean, maybe if you're a traditional journalist, but you know what? That's the other side of that. You know, no one calls him names back. No one says, "Hey, you're going to say that you're a rapist, man." You know, to his face and get in his face. You sent a mob to attack. How can you possibly, really be strong and mad back at him? Give him the mirror of Donald Trump. He'd welter, man. I don't think he could do it.
Yeah. But so I want to come back to what I said about.
I don't think they're going to offer us Trump, just for the record, Bill.
Yeah, right. And by the way, I haven't asked for it, and if I did, I would not get it. So no problem there. But I want to go back to what I said. You can see Donald Trump is floundering right now, man. The entire Republican Party is. They don't know where to go with Kamala Harris. So what's their big deal? Now it's she wasn't always black. She just decided to turn black, which is insane. Before that, it was, oh man, she's got this laugh. Oh, she's got a laugh. I mean, that's really dangerous. As Trump says, you can tell a lot by somebody's laugh. Yeah, you can tell they're a real human being. You know, I saw Gretchen Whitmer last night, who's, by the way, my candidate for vice president. We can talk about that. But at any rate, I was at a book signing. I don't want to get the impression Gretchen and I were hanging out, you know, but and somebody asked her about that, and she just said, "This is so crazy." She said, "I don't know." She said, "Did you ever see the other guy laugh at all?"
Right. Yeah.
I think Mark Cuban offered him $5 million for a belly laugh, full on laughing his ass off between here and election day. I'm not sure if he'll take that wager.
I like somebody who's got a good laugh, frankly. And I think one of the most effective things about Barack Obama, like, for example, at the White House Correspondents' Dinners, where he's giving good lines, you know, he'll give a good line and then he'll laugh at his own line almost before the audience does, right? He does that little chuckle. Bill Clinton had a great laugh. Right. By the way, so did Hillary, and they attacked Hillary for her laugh, if you recall, right? So this is it. They cannot stand a strong woman. All they can do is call them names. Crazy Nancy Pelosi, it's now crazy Kamala Harris. It's all they can do is call them names. And I'll tell you, okay, if you want to piss off millions of suburban women, keep it up, man. Keep insulting. Yeah. Don't talk about policies. Don't talk about different on policy. No, just make fun of her, insult her, done. I'm telling you.
Bill, I thought he brought on J.D. Vance as the vice president to do that.
It doesn't matter.
Women across the nation.
No, as he said today, it doesn't matter. The choice of J.D. Vance today, he said, doesn't matter. Oh, yes, it does. It matters to the childless cat ladies.
They're all over my Facebook stream. Bill Press, he's all over our stream. He's our fine guest here on the Devil's Advocate. Stick around. More of Bill, his VP pick. Bill, I'm telling you, I think it's Josh Shapiro, only because they're launching in Philadelphia. I think geography says to me, perhaps Shapiro, but we'll get your pick. More Devil's Advocates. We'll keep talking, Bill.
60% of the time, they're right every time. The Devil's Advocates.
And welcome back to the Devil's Advocates radio show. Bill Press, our friend. He's a podcaster. He's a prognosticator. He's a pundit. You can find him on Twitter at Bill Press Pod. Bill, I know we're going to get into the VP selection, your thoughts, but we haven't spoke since President Joe Biden declined to continue his run for the second term. And, of course, Vice President Harris consolidated support. When you got that news that day, man, I want to know what was going through your mind?
Relief, number one. A little sadness, mixed emotions, because we've talked about that. I'm a big Biden fan, have been for a long time. We're both from Delaware, right? So special bonding there. He and I joke about that a lot. And pride in Biden for being big enough, tall enough, American enough to make the right decision. I mean, I think he earned his spot on Mount Rushmore as far as I'm concerned. And to me, he put his country over himself. To me, the contrast between these Republicans like Marco Rubio, go down the list, Ted Cruz, Lindsey Graham, and all of those people who know Donald Trump is sick, know he's dangerous. But like on this border bill, right? That was good for the country, bipartisan bill, but they went for their party over their country. Joe Biden went for his country over his party and over himself. Just a unique, an unusual, and I think heroic exercise of leadership on his part. And seals his legacy forever. Before that, I was afraid of this. I think the first paragraph of his obit would be, this is a guy, former president, who didn't know when to get out of the way. Now, the first obit is going to be, this is the giant, the most consequential one-term president in the history of this country who made this selfless decision for what was best for the country. So good for Joe Biden.
Bill, did you ever see the Democrats rallying around Harris in the way they have? I mean,
no,
I have never seen this disorganized party suddenly march in lockstep like it is right now, Bill.
No, I must say, by the way, we're only talking about a week away, right? Yeah. It's not like we're talking for the last 2 years. This is just a week, right? It's phenomenal. I never have seen the party so united and so real and so energetic and so spirited and so determined. Kamala, I think, has done a great job hitting all the right notes this last week. And then the support that's coming from the white dudes and the black women and the young people and the memes and the union, and leaders of Congress everywhere rallying, Hollywood, Wall Street rallying behind her. It's phenomenal. And, it's a honeymoon. It's not going to last, but it ain't over yet. And it just keeps building and building. It's got a momentum of its own. And again, look at the Trump campaign. They are floundering. They don't know where to go, right? So, yeah, we didn't mention this. Trump says she hates Jews. Hello? She's married to one.
But he's a crappy Jew,
he's
or Bernie Jew. Sanders, according to the WABC host. And then Trump says, yeah. But
look, that's the level of attack. They don't know where to go. Again, thank you, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Bill Press, do you think the rumors are true? Do you think J.D. Vance had sex with that couch?
I can't prove
Doesn't it seem like,
Bill.
whether or not it's true, Bill, doesn't he seem like the sort of dude that would have sex with the couch, and that's why it's sticking?
I saw a phrase, he's a couch abuser or something like that. Absolutely. Oh yeah, no doubt about it. And by the way, there's a P tape for Trump in Moscow, which we'll see one day too. I believe in that tape, and I believe in the couch.
Bill, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz started calling him weird. In fact, this whole Republican Party, they're weird. What do you think of this attack?
I love
something different than calling him fascistic.
No, I know.
Whatever Dom's been saying.
You know what? I love it because everybody can identify with it, right? You don't have, of course, let's remember, John Lennon once said, "You're weird if you're not weird," right? So it can go both ways, but
Right.
everybody right away, they know exactly what you mean. You don't have to define it. You don't have to say what you mean. You just say, "Oh man, they're weird," and everybody gets it right away. Yeah.
Well, Bill, there's cool, weird, and then there's JD Vance. But let me ask you, what about the Democratic base, and how is Kamala? Does she need a white dude? How does she balance the ticket? Is it about electoral college votes? What would you do, Bill Press?
Well, first of all, we all go by this wisdom that you have to balance the ticket, that people vote for vice president. They don't really. I think we put much too much importance to geography. So the current wisdom is you have to have a white male from a key state, right? Swing state, okay? That would help, but I don't think that's the only thing you ought to be looking for. For me, it's somebody who would be really exciting, bring a lot of excitement to the ticket, and as a strong campaigner, and would take it to Trump and take it to Vance. I have to say, I really like the idea of Gretchen Whitmer. I saw her last night. She is so cool. I mean, there were 500 people there, George Washington University. She's got her new book out. She comes on stage. Here's the book. Here's the book. Signed.
True Gretch.
True Gretch, right. She comes on stage. She's got red slacks, a gray kind of blouse, and sneakers on. Total cool, total comfortable, total tough ass. I mean, she was just so good. I think, to me, the image of two badass women taking on these two white guys that don't know what the hell they're doing would be the most exciting thing that could happen to politics. Short of that, Josh Shapiro. And it looks like it could be Josh Shapiro. By the way, I think he'd be great, too. And Pennsylvania is really key.
You know, Bill, we'll get to meet the vice presidential candidate and Kamala Harris coming to Western Wisconsin next week. I can't tell you when.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I can't tell you where, but she's coming, Bill, and I'll be there. But we'll check back in with you sometime real soon, my friend.
Yeah, you got to do it fast because things are happening so fast. You know, we got. All right, guys. Hey, feel good. This was a great moment. Enjoy it.
I'm not used to this feeling, Bill. We appreciate you, man.
Ride this wave. Ride this wave.
We're chasing the dragon, Bill. We're chasing it. Thank you, Bill Press. Podcast just dropped, yesterday, Bill?
Jamal Simmons. Where
can I get it?
BillPressPod.com. Bill Press Pod. Just anywhere you get your podcast, you can find my podcast. Google, Apple, Spotify, anywhere. Jamal Simmons. See you later.
Thanks.
The happiest I've been in a while, Bill.
I know. Hey, all right, there we go.
No, he's gone.
Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what Wisconsin needs to know. Civic engagement groups in Wisconsin are encouraging lapsed voters to think about elections differently. Rhonda Lidner is with the Wisconsin Interfaith Voter Engagement Campaign.
Oftentimes, these are voters who are just thinking on the national level of a presidential election. They're not considering the down ballot races and how down ballot races can directly impact their neighborhoods.
Early voting for Wisconsin's August 13th primary is underway. The remains of a Wisconsin soldier declared missing in action in the Korean War have been identified. Army Corporal Robert Race was from Dodgeville. His body was found in 1951. He'll have a military burial in Dodgeville in September. I'm Terry Bell, Civic Media News. Now, here's what you need to know closer to home.
This is news from WMDX Madison. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson. We're wrapping up July, which is Black, Indigenous, and People of Color Mental Health Awareness Month. People of color are more likely to have environmental barriers to getting mental health treatment because of institutionalized racism. Finding a clinician who understands their life experience can be hard too. Journey Mental Health has a program called Ujima, specifically focused on culturally competent care. Tyson Rittenmeyer from Journey Mental Health.
95% of the successful outcome for anybody is their connection to their therapist. Sitting across from somebody or across from a Zoom screen from somebody who
There's a new partnership here in Dane County on a mission to explore how we can improve mental health care for people of color. We have more details and resources at mad.radio. And that's what you need to know. I'm Savannah Tomei Olson, WMDX News.
On your entertainment beat, I'm Pete Schwaba. If your resume is updated, you might want to send it to the Academy Awards. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Jimmy Kimmel and John Mulaney both turned down Oscars so far. ABC company man Kimmel has hosted the Oscars 4 times and the Emmys 3 times, but he's trying to slow down and have more balance in his life. Oh well, Mulaney said no thanks, maybe next year. The Oscars don't need to panic yet. The broadcast isn't until March 2nd, and it is still considered a prestigious gig, where most of the time you won't get slapped. Just because you've had a good sitcom once doesn't mean it's automatic your new show will get picked up. Just ask Ty Burrell, who played Phil Dunphy on the hit ABC show Modern Family. The crazy talented Burrell starred in 250 episodes of Modern Family, won 2 Emmys, and was nominated for 8 straight years. ABC still passed on his new pilot, Forgive and Forget. A tough biz indeed. For more showbiz fun, tune into Nightlight with me, Pete Schwaba, weeknights from 7 to 9 p.m. on the Civic Media Radio Network.
This is your local Civic Media radio station. Want to hear even more? Anytime? Find all of it at civicmedia.us.
I'm meteorologist Mace Michaels. Tonight, mostly cloudy, scattered storms. Some could be strong. Warm and muggy with a low near 70. And a mix of sun and clouds for tomorrow. More storms possible. Not as hot, but still humid. High mid-80s. Heating back up Friday and plenty of humidity. High upper 80s. Currently, it's 91 degrees.
Hi, this is Paul Soglin. When I was mayor of Madison, Samba Balde was Common Council president. I counted on him to fight for a fair share of city services for all Madison residents and to protect taxpayers' interests. I know you can count on him to be a progressive state senator. Vote for Samba Balde for Senate on August 13th.
Paid for by Samba for Senate.
Do you like Delta 8? It'd be cooler if you did. We proudly announce the Devil's Advocates have partnered with Herbal Aspect to bring your newest Delta 8 favorites, Devil's Gummies, exclusively at herbalaspect.com. Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com, code Devil Radio.
John Peterson and Gordy Young.
On our next show, Media World will take a look at Trump's new movie, Trump 2024.
And join us early in the morning.
The John and Gordy Show, weekday morning 6 until 8.
The Devil's Advocates, making radio great again.
Welcome back to the Devil's Advocates Radio Show. I know it's always great when Bill Press comes round, our friend, podcaster, pundit, prognosticator, partier, friend of the Devil's Advocates.
Yes, he's a good cat. We love Bill. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thanks for coming round, Bill. You can join us right now if you'd like. We got a little bit of time and another fun guest coming in studio this hour, Dr. Tim Slecker from the Busted Pencil Show on Civic Media.
Nice.
He's in town, so we're going to have him in studio and talk
Excellent.
about maybe the VP pick, possible pick, Josh Shapiro. I guess he's a voucher guy. Curious what Tim thinks of that. But anyways, Tom, I wanted to get back to Trump. Trump made an appearance today in front of the National Association of Black Journalists. And he claimed, and I paraphrased, Rich, if you could, why don't you look up this clip? I don't want to paraphrase. I want to get it accurate. Trump basically insulted Kamala Harris and said she's Indian. I didn't even know she was black. And she wasn't black before, and now she's, pretending to be black? Something of that sort. Well, after he said it today, and there were some gasps, some booing from the black journalist in the audience, Tom, he's doubled down. He has gone to social media to double down on this thought. Here is what he said on the Truthy Social this afternoon. Crazy Kamala is saying she's Indian, not black. This is a big deal. Stone cold phony. She uses everybody, including her racial identity. And he uses a video clip of Mindy Kaling and Kamala Harris talking about cooking traditional Indian cuisine. She talked about Indian food with a Indian actress, so therefore she's claiming Indian heritage. The cooking segment proves it, Dom.
What?
That's what he shared on the Truthy Social. Now, Harris's mother is Indian and her father is Jamaican. She has consistently identified as mixed race with both Black and Indian heritage. In response to Trump's comments, a number of far-right activists have pushed claims that Harris concealed or reinvented her race, Dom. This is the stupidest, craziest argument anywhere, and MAGA World's jumping on board.
Of course.
Laura Loomer, do you know this one? She's quite crazy. The Q is strong with her, Dom. A failed congressional candidate who Trump briefly considered for a role on his campaign posted, I have a copy of Kamala Harris's, Kamala Harris, birth certificate. Nowhere on her birth certificate does it say that she is Black or African. Well, Jamaica is actually in the Caribbean, but you wouldn't know that. At Kamala HQ is a liar.
Yeah.
I mean, just all you racist white people, just look at her. Is she Black? Yes. You would call her Black. You would use the N-word or worse. You never doubted that you were going to denigrate her race.
Well, that was before the Orange Messiah decided that was going to be his attack line because he's got nothing else. Nothing else. He's been,
Rich, do we have that sound?
the most effective. He's done more for the Black population of this country than any other president besides Abraham Lincoln. But it's all about him. The cut, I believe, you're talking about Donald Trump today on Harris's race. I believe it's cut number 5, if you would please, Rich.
She was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was Black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn Black, and now she wants to be known as Black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she Black?
She has always
But you know
identified
what?
as a Black woman.
I
She went to a
respect
historically
either
Black
one.
Black. Even he's just so condescending on top of the racism. Black.
I didn't know, again, that one had to declare one's racial heritage sufficiently for Trump.
Well, because it's Trump who is the one who decides. Any questions, you ask Trump. You don't know what to say. You don't know what to do. You don't know how to act. You don't know what response should be. You look to Trump. Period, man. That's it. That's all the farther you need to go.
The ultimate arbiter
Of everything.
You know, and they let him think that, Dom. His family, his friends, his sycophants, his former administration, they just keep on going along with
All
this.
right, but you know, and
That's
this is
the most craven thing.
Well, the craven because he's got billions. If that man was a broke ass, living in the park kind of guy, you think he'd get any of this? You think anybody would follow? Absolutely not, man.
They would call the cops and walk around the block to avoid him.
Right. Has he paid up the $500 million he owes to the state of New York yet? Has he paid E. Jean Carroll her $80 million that he owes her? I mean, this guy, if it were not for the perceived wealth, and I assume he's got money. I mean, he's still out of jail. Takes money to stay out of jail. So he's got money. He's got, the sycophants and the megas giving him $250 million, to stop the steal, which would be ultimately going to his pocket for his legal defense fund. He's got a legal defense fund that's not a legal defense fund. So that's nice that all you folks, you will fund that for him. But if he were just an average dude, he'd have to be poor in the park, man. He could just be your average guy walking down the street, going to the work, going to job, going to the bar at the end of the shift. He would not get that kind of reverence that he does because they perceive him. The only reason is because he's rich.
In a racist way, he bemoans the fact that Kamala Harris was able to declare herself Black, ignoring the fact that she is Black.
I mean.
But I would point out Didn't he just get to declare himself rich and people kind of went along with it? Because he really hasn't ever determined or properly verified, hasn't even offered us his taxes, right?
Oh, come on, man.
Just waiting for the audit to be done.
It's the branding. You know what he feels? Is he feels good? That Trump brand is worth $10 billion. If he feels like he's losing control of the narrative, if he feels like he's falling behind in the polls, if he feels like he's actually got to scratch a check for $500 million to the state of New York and add on to that, well, maybe he's worth a little bit less today. So maybe that's why he's being so feisty at the National Black Journalists Association.
Well, right now the Trump brand is worth about $1.96. 844-967-2789. Our pal Jack from Merrimack. Welcome, Jack. What do you got for us?
Hello, Jack.
Well, I think that Bill Press is correct. I wouldn't invite Trump to an interview either. All you're going to get is more of the same, lies and insults. The other thing is, though, the legitimate media have to wake up to this fact. They've got to start taking a stand. It's time to actually do something about this kind of thing. Legitimate news outlets need to say as often as possible, Trump is a criminal. He's a liar. He's an adjudicated rapist. He's clearly racist. He'd implement Project 2025 if he got into office, which would establish...
No, he disavowed that, Jack. Yesterday, he got the guy fired. Right. It's all in his rearview mirror. Never wanted it, never knew about it, and didn't like most of the ideas, apparently.
Yeah, and he is a liar, which we also know. One of the first places the police, by the way, would attack is the enemy of the people, and that's a direct quote from Trump about the media, the legitimate media.
He said it over and over and over and over, Jack. Yep. I mean, he always says it. Like every single time he does an event, there's a press in the back of one of his rallies. He says it. He points at him. The whole crowd looks and boos and thumbs down, Jack. I mean, if there's one thing he's been consistent about besides his racism, it is his hatred of the free media.
Yep. Yeah, if the media doesn't wake up and he gets in, the first place they're going to go is after people like, excuse me, guys, you. And
hell, hey, slow down, Jack.
I've always considered, Jack, that would be a possibility that we would become enemies of the state. He's described us as such at rallies prior, Jack. He's been doing that since 16, dude.
All right, man. Jack. Thank you. Appreciate it. Jack, 844-967-2789.
I always perceived being called by Trump an enemy of the state, sort of as a badge of honor.
Well, of his state of chaos, right? His state of racism, his state of misogyny, of that state enemy, I am.
Patrick from Green Bay on the text line says, Devils, I respect Bill Press, but wasn't crazy about his opinion post in the Hill calling for J.D. Vance to get the axe. We want him on the ticket as a huge liability, and I'm afraid flip-flopper Nikki Haley could be tapped for VP, says Patrick from Green Bay. I would not be shocked if Trump gave J.D. Vance the heave-ho during DNC week, trying to, give it back to the Dems a little bit. Here's another texter. Shapiro would lose the race for Kamala. Gaza, Gaza, Gaza. And then a snarky Jim from Appleton says, welcome back, Mr. Crute. Please continue to refrain from being an insurrection supporter. Kiss my ass, Jim, but I'll read the rest. As for the VP pick, everything Bill used to describe the perfect VP can be attributed to Pete Buttigieg. Though I can't argue with your logic about Shapiro. Now, I would point out, Buttigieg would be my choice. I just think...
Oh, I finally convinced you of that, huh? Oh, good to know, man. I brought that up
Scott Ross.
Weeks ago. Oh, okay. You heard it from somebody else.
He was much more convincing in his arguments. You might have said it, but Scott Ross actually changed my mind. That's the difference. He's persuasive.
All right. I didn't know I had to spell it out for you, Crute. I'll talk slower next time.
But I have said, predicated on the fact that Kamala is going on the road with her VP pick next week, and they're starting in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, that I think logic would dictate, or at least geography might dictate, that it's Josh Shapiro. And real quick, before we bring on our education specialist, Dr. Tim Slecker from Busted Pencils, The Hill reporting, progressive sound alarm on Shapiro VP talk. Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, Democrat, is facing growing pushback from progressives, even as his stock rises in the Harris Veep stakes conversation. They, the progressives, are sounding the alarm on his past position on school vouchers and say that his stance on the Israel-Hamas war could highlight a divide in the Democratic Party that could impact the November election if VP Harris chooses him as her running mate. And Democrats who back Shapiro point to his popularity, record of winning statewide, and overall electoral importance of Pennsylvania, which has 19 electoral votes, Crute has told you many times. It is part of the so-called blue wall, considered crucial to Democrats. But Dom, that hasn't stopped progressives from amplifying their criticism of the governor this week. One letter signed by nearly 50 progressive leaders pointed to Shapiro's, and I quote the letter, shortcomings as a national candidate, and urged the vice president to consider Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz instead. With the compressed timeline ahead of us to defeat the Trump Vance MAGA threat, we simply cannot afford any setbacks, the letter said. A letter from another progressive group known as VP Unity said Harris's consideration of Shapiro has set off alarm bells amongst young voters, Muslims, Arab Americans, and activists. And some progressives, critics of Shapiro, say that his response to the pro-Palestinian protest in Pennsylvania, hard for me to alliterate here on the radio, Dom, which have they labeled as heavy-handed, could impact the Harris-Shapiro ticket more negatively than his views on the Israel-Hamas war more generally. So heavy-handedness towards the protest. That's the objection. And school vouchers. I guess those are the knocks. You're supposed to know what the knocks are up front. Megan Thee Stallion. Last night she was twerking at the Harris. I know some righties were losing their freaking minds.
They couldn't handle it, man. They could not handle it.
I just think it put the incels in a weird state of flux, if you know what I'm saying. Folks, we got a fine guest coming next. He is Dr. Tim Slecker, host of Busted Pencils on the Civic Media, coming up at 6 o'clock. Dr. Tim Slecker joining us next. More Devil's Advocates Wednesday. Why would he do that edition?
Boy.
You got to come a little.
Yeah, I know.
Hold me closer, tiny dancer.
There we go.
Can you hear? Check. Can you hear, Tim?
Can I hear?
Yeah. I don't know. I might have your. How about now?
Now I can.
Okay.
Yep.
I often turn them off because he's doing
Yeah.
work before we get started.
All right, all hooked up. 1 minute to go.
Awesome.
Legal for consumption by adults, they may be mailed directly to your home. Always use Devil Radio at checkout to let Herbal Aspect know where you heard them. Order today for delivery. Devil's Gummies and Devil Radio exclusive specials only from herbalaspect.com. Code Devil Radio. DevilRadioswag.com. You've asked for it for over a decade. We've finally gotten off our debt and responded. DevilRadioswag.com. T-shirt and Dom's favorites, lemony black, white or gray. DevilRadioswag.com. Crew necks, hoodies, coffee mugs,
I don't know if you know the Devil's Advocates, but the show is kind of a big deal.
Yeah, thank you for listening to the Devil's Advocates radio show, our last segment of the day. If you got something to say, you can hit us up right now on the lines, 844-967-2789.
Dom, I erred. Knew it immediately and couldn't correct myself. That was not Megan Thee Stallion. That was Lizzo. I know you're a big connoisseur, so you would have noted right away.
I knew it was Van Halen, man.
We got a fine guest. I hope you know him. He's Dr. Tim Sucker. He's the host, or one of the co-hosts of Busted Pencils. Comes on the Civic Media Network, 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
You got a fine lead-in each and every night, Tim.
Hey,
How you
Tim,
doing, man?
Hey, man, good to see you, dude.
Hey, Dom, what's happening? Hey, I'm doing great. Just at the Wisconsin Public Education Network Summit, 10-year summit. So everything public education, everything Wisconsin.
Well, I hear that Trump, through Project 2025, would like to eliminate the Department of Education. Superfluous, I hear.
But he doesn't have anything to do with Project 2025.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. But some of the things in there are really he doesn't like whatsoever, Tim.
No, he's never once ever advocated for the elimination of the Department of Education. So, no, it's frightening. But I hear you guys though talking about public education, and I hear you get, so I'm originally a Pennsylvania boy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Now you're a Buckeye.
Now I'm a Buckeye.
I particularly find you distasteful.
Well, sometimes you don't get to pick where you live. You end up where you have to go. But no, Josh Shapiro. And right now I was saying after being, the last 2 days being immersed in public education, he's not a choice of public education voters. Now, the question is, does that matter?
Does that matter?
I don't know. I think it does. We like to try to think that that's a pretty substantial block of people, particularly when you don't have to choose him, because if you're doing it from the math standpoint, why not go with Mark Kelly?
Because of Pennsylvania, 19 electoral college votes.
Yeah, I know that, but you alienate the public school voters, and I don't know, is that a big enough block to potentially say it's worth it because you're going to get those 21 electoral votes when maybe you're going to get those 21 electoral votes if you get Mark Kelly?
Well, Tammy Baldwin released some of her financial disclosures, her campaign, and amongst the greatest contributors to the Baldwin campaign, public school educators.
Yeah.
Not a shocker, I suppose.
Well, I guess that's part of that's part of the math calculus. It's not just the electoral, votes that you'll pick up. It's also who do we alienate? Who do we possibly lose? What percentage do we slice off of those folks that would have an issue with, in this particular case, an issue with school vouchers? But there's going to be that calculation on every issue, on everything, be it Israel or be it Gaza or the border. I mean, pick your issue. That's always the case, right?
Yeah, no, I we get it. We've been talking about this a lot on Busted Pencils. Is public education, does it make a difference? Is the potential of saying, actually what really matters is who in the Harris administration, who are they looking at for a Secretary of Education?
Right,
is that a bigger statement? And could we get some insight onto that? Because potentially, what excitement for us is, if Waltz isn't going to be the vice president, what a great Secretary of Education he would be. And that would really be a nod to public education voters.
No, I heard it recommended that Kamala Harris at the DNC convention in Chicago in a couple of weeks, not just announce her vice president, not just roll out her vice president, but because governance is really a delegation of leaders, it's not just one leader, it's a whole team of leaders. Why should she or not notify the American public? These are the people like Tim Walz that I would give cabinet positions to if you vote for me. This is my team. It's us. And of course, the contrast is Donald Trump claims it's all me.
It's all me.
I'm the only one that can solve the problem.
Right.
Well, you didn't solve many problems last time, sir.
He didn't solve problems. And I think there is some legitimacy around the idea of saying, and here's my team. Because there's already there's an excitement right now with Harris. The idea of, kind of saying, and here's who I'm going to bring with me. I think that just continues to generate excitement.
Yeah. Keep building on that. Dr. Tim Slecker, Busted Pencils, coming up next. Tim, it's a pleasure to see you, man. It's always fun to talk to you.
Thanks, Tom.
One of the things Trump has said is that he will not give a penny of public dollars to any public school that mandates vaccines. What do you think would happen if that actually came to fruition to public education?
Oh, wow. I mean, the whole threatening to hold money hostage it can be a real issue. The idea, though, that, vaccines really, I mean, we're going to go back to the idea of going, hey, look, polio, it's worth the risk. The idea that you're going to kind of go back into this, I think he continues to earn daily that new label that he's been given, weird. It's just weird when you think about immunizing your child. Other than really, really weird, crazy people, the majority of people want to send their kids to schools where their peers also have been vaccinated against diseases that can cause a crippling or even a death.
My kid, my choice.
Yeah, it is. And you know what? And you have a private school to send your kid to, not a public school. You have that choice. Just don't ask me for taxpayer dollars to pay for
you
it.
can do that on your own dime, not with the vouchers. I'm with you
Exactly.
there, buddy.
Tim, we're short on time. Act 10. Looks like it might get rolled back in Wisconsin. Would that be a benefit to teachers?
Huge benefit. That would actually really signal to teachers that maybe we're thinking of appreciating you again. So yeah, big deal.
We appreciate you, Dr. Tim Slecker. We appreciate Johnny Lupinacci.
Thank you.
Did I say that right?
Lupinacci, man, you got it.
I've been listening. Busted Pencils comes on next. You're going to want to stick around for that. Thank you to our friend Bill Press. Thank you all for listening. We'll do it again tomorrow for your listening pleasure. Thanks to Rich for lightly screening them today. Have a great night, everyone. Stick around. Busted Pencils on the Civic Media Network with host Dr. Tim Slecker is next. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks, guys.